Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing the September predictions. And this is a really interesting, very powerful month because the shift is happening. So there's this huge shift happening in astrology where the nodes shift signs. And so we're going to get into the themes of the month, what this shift entails, and what's going to happen for your zodiac sign. So when it comes to my predictions and how I usually do them is that they're usually based on rising signs, but you can watch it for your moon sign as well. That can resonate too, but usually rising or moon. And then I'm just going to go through each event throughout the month and just kind of break down what it means for you. And there's several events happening this month, but I'll go over like the 4 major ones, so this video is not too long. So we'll start off with Aries. So if you're watching this, you are an Aries rising or Aries moon. This is using Sidereal astrology. And what we're going to do is just get into the month of September for you and talk about how the major events happening in September will influence your life. Now we're going to get into about 4 major events that are happening. I will emphasize that September is a huge month. The nodal shift officially happens in September, so September is a huge month for shifting, change, breaking of old cycles, and we're going to talk about what that means for you, Aries, in your personal life and really how that manifests on a day-to-day basis for you. So let's just get into it. I'll be putting like the dates on the screen and stuff so you guys can like take note of what days are really important in the month of September 2020. So when it comes to September, I'll start by talking about the full moon that's happening on September 2nd. So we're starting off the month with the full moon, and usually with full moon energy, it lasts for about 2 or 3 weeks after the event of the full moon. So we're going to really feel that full moon in Aquarius energy for the first half of September. So before we get into that full moon energy and talk about how it affects you, I'm really curious to know, with this current energy that's really being activated in the stars right now, in the universe, especially on August 16th with that Mars into Aries shift and Leo season starting, comment down below your current mood. I feel like the mood is so vibrant and radiant, but comment down below your own personal feeling about your current mood with the end of August, beginning of September energy going on. Comment down below using emojis. I'm curious to know how you guys are feeling about the current energies in the sky. And I talk about the current energies also on my Instagram. So I talked about that on a specific post on August 16th. I posted it just about a week ago. So you guys can head there, Astro Kit, if you guys missed it. But tell me down below how you feel using emojis, what your current mood is. Okay, but anyway, let's get into this full moon first, and then we'll talk about like the 3 other events. So the full moon is happening on September 2nd. So right away on the beginning of the month, you're having that full moon energy in your 11th house, Aries. So this full moon energy is very significant and very unique given that it is in the sign of Aquarius, but it's also unique because it's aspecting Uranus. So Uranus energy is also tied to Aquarius, and what is Uranus all about? It's about breaking cycles, breaking patterns, it's about doing things differently, doing things in an innovative way. And so what that means for you, Aries, is that 11th house energy is all about our long-term goals. It's about our desires. It's about how we fulfill those desires, what our long-term vision for the world is, and not just our short-term goals, short-term desires, our superficial goals, but really what our vision for our life is. What is that driving desire in our lives? And so with you having Aquarius as your 11th house, your desire for life could be about definitely changing the world in some way, helping society in some way, doing those very humanitarian Aquarius things. And so with this full moon in your 11th house, it's really going to illuminate that energy for you. It's going to magnify what your long-term goals are, magnify really what your vision is, what your desires are, and maybe you are taking some steps to edit that a bit. I know with all the shifts happening, especially in September, we are kind of all editing our life plan, so to speak. So you can be really editing your life goals, your life visions, and especially when it comes to this word or term of desire, it's really tied to the 11th house, and our long-term desires really get fulfilled through that house. And so with this full moon in your 11th house, there's this sense or something that might happen to you where your desires come into completion. There's a desire that you've had, maybe metaphorically, literally, physically, where it's finally coming full circle. Some desire you've had is definitely coming to completion. It's coming to fruition. And something I really want to emphasize for you, Aries, that's really exciting is that with this Uranus energy, with this Aquarius energy, it's about doing things differently, doing things in an innovative way. And the 11th house is about opportunity. So I see for you, Aries, definitely you coming up with a new innovative idea that really brings you a new opportunity. Maybe you've been wanting to complete some certain desire or goal, but it's like you've had this blockage to where it's like, I can't figure out how to get from point A to point B, but this Aquarius full moon kind of illuminates that pathway for you and shows you how to make that desire come true and manifesting that opportunity that makes that desire come true. So I would say with this full moon, the keywords are definitely like opportunity, innovation, doing things differently. And you might even bring like a new social like goal or dynamic into your life. 11th house is social groups too. So you might collaborate with like-minded people to achieve a certain goal. So 11th house is really about that sense of goals and achieving things and gaining things and fulfilling desires. And that's what this full moon is really about for you, starting on September 2nd. And you're really going to feel that theme of opportunity, innovation, and collaborating with others and long-term visions for the bulk of September, because full moons do last, or the energy from a full moon lasts for a couple of weeks after it happens. And so that brings me to September 9th. So September 9th, Mars goes retrograde. So this is kind of like a harder aspect, especially for you, Aries, since Mars is your chart ruler. You're ruled by Mars. And so Mars is going to be going retrograde. And what that means is that Mars is going to kind of take this reflective energy or take on this energy of revisitation. And so Mars is the energy that doesn't really want to revisit things. It's an energy that wants to push forward. That's the purpose of Mars, the energy of ambition and achieving things. And so with Mars going retrograde, it kind of pulls us back a bit. And so Mars is going retrograde in your first house. So you might feel a little bit delayed, especially because Mars is going to be squaring Saturn for most of the month. So Saturn is about delays, it's about restrictions. So in the month of September, you really might face that experience of kind of wanting to move forward, having that urge to push forward and achieve those goals like we talked about, achieve those long-term visions and manifest them. But then Saturn is like, okay, wait, slow down. And then Mars is kind of like, okay, I'm indecisive. So Mars being retrograde in your first house kind of manifests as that kind of indecisive energy or kind of cautious, hesitant energy. So that's definitely something I feel like it's hard for Aries to deal with, because you're somebody who's like very passionate, bold, you want to move forward, you want to get things done, get out of my way. I'm an Aries, I'm not waiting for anyone. But this energy really speaks to you being patient and having really that sense of waiting for the outcome or manifesting what you want, but really creating that plan to do it and being patient with that plan and being patient with the universe, because it kind of wants you to reflect on things and think about things, and it kind of restricts you a little bit and restricts your activities and manifestations, but it's for a long-term purpose. So expect to feel that kind of pushback or like that urge to want to do things but feeling delayed, or feeling that sense of hesitation or caution in September. And expect maybe some obstacles as well, especially since Saturn is in your 10th house, Mars is in your first house. So you're feeling that tension between career and self and kind of how you project yourself and in your career as well. And Saturn's really making you take a double look on how you manifest those goals and long-term goals, and helping you to structure them accordingly. And that brings me to September 17th, which is the new moon in Virgo. So this new moon in Virgo is a little bit more upbeat because it's happening in your 6th house. And so Virgo energy is about healing, it's about health, it's about diet, and really the sense of work ethic as well. And you're having your like career house is really activated for you in September. So you're really focused on those long-term goals that you do have. And with this new moon in Virgo, it's going to help you to really create plans for those goals. Virgo energy is all about planning. It's about logic. It's about strategy. And having that new moon, new energy, new initiatory stage in your life, in your 6th house of health and diet and work, you're really going to initiate new health projects, initiate new plans that help you succeed in the long term. This is really vital for Aries people because you guys can be impatient. You guys can want to do things and do things impulsively, but Virgo kind of brings you back in and helps you to plan things step by step from beginning to end. And that's another thing with Aries energy, is that you guys are good at starting things but may have trouble finishing them. So Virgo is kind of good at that energy of like starting and finishing. So with that new moon in your 6th house, you're going to have that more vital energy, or that inspired energy to plan things and finish those plans. And definitely there's this huge theme for you in September of planning for your future, creating your future step by step, getting a notebook, writing it out, and really planning things that makes sense. So like I said, that Aquarius full moon energy is going to last for like the bulk of the month, and then on September 17th, the new moon in Virgo energy kind of triggers a new set of energies in our life, and that lasts for another 2 weeks. So we're going to feel more of that upbeat energy from Virgo in the latter half of the month, and you're really going to feel that in terms of feeling more healthy, feeling more productive, having that really strong work ethic, having that really tunnel vision sort of work ethic, and that work ethic that is dedicated to planning for the future, dedicated towards healing, dedicated towards the best version of something. Virgo energy is really about discernment and choosing the best option. By the end of the month, you can really expect to have a more succinct and decisive view of your future and plan for your future. And some of your keywords for the month are definitely goals. This month for you is really about your goals in life, opportunities, creating those opportunities for yourself, being a magnet for those opportunities. And the month for you takes kind of like a futuristic theme to it, because you're having your 10th house kind of activated, 11th house activated. There's that future theme coming into your consciousness. And that brings me to the shift that's happening. So the shift that's happening is the nodal shift. The nodes are going from Gemini to Sagittarius into Taurus and Scorpio. And this means that the north node's going into your 2nd house and the south node's going into your 8th house. So I will be making a separate video about this shift, and you guys won't want to miss it because it's a huge, if not the biggest event this year. And it's going to be really significant in all of our lives, and I don't want to make this video too long by talking about it now. So I'll make a separate video about it, and you guys can subscribe so you don't miss it. And also I will be doing the love predictions for your zodiac sign for September on Patreon. So if you guys want to check out your love predictions, I'll link down below my Patreon link, and you guys can click the second option. I think it's called Astrology subscription, but you guys can click that link, and I will be doing the love predictions on Patreon. And I have a lot of other cool content on Patreon that I don't post on any of my social medias. And last but not least, you guys can follow me on Instagram for more fun content, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Hey Leo, so let's get into your September prediction and talk about what's happening for you in the month of September. So how I usually do my predictions is that I talk about the major events in September, or the major events of that month, and then we break it down and talk about how that specific event influences you. So in September, there's a lot of things going on, and I mentioned in the first timestamp the list of events going on in September, but right now we're going to talk about the 4 major ones and how they really manifest in your regular life, Leo. So like how I usually do predictions, it's based on rising signs. So Leo rising is watching this, or Leo moon. So you can really resonate with rising or your moon sign. And so with that being said, this is also in sidereal astrology, using the sidereal dates, not the tropical dates. So with that out of the way, let's get into your prediction. So the month of September has a lot in store for us as a collective and for you personally, Leo. The month of September is really this month of creation, this month of really significant change, the month where this huge shift is happening. So we're going to talk about that at the end. But before we get into these specific events, tell me down below if you can describe your mood right now. How would you describe it using emojis? I feel like with this current energy, with Leo season and Mars going into Aries, there's this really like concentrated, powerful energy. And so comment down below how you feel about it using emojis. I'm really curious to know how you guys feel at this moment. So with that being said, let's just get into it. So the first thing I'll talk about is the full moon. So the full moon is happening on September 2nd. So right out of the gate, we're having the full moon at the beginning of the month. And so full moon energy usually lasts for about 2 weeks after the full moon. So the first half of the month is really based on this full moon, and then the second half is based on the new moon, which we'll talk about in a second. But this full moon is happening in your sister sign. It's happening in the sign of Aquarius. So what does this mean for you? It's happening in your 7th house. And this full moon is so significant because it offers this huge, or this really magnified energy of shifting, this magnified energy of breaking old habits. Aquarius energy is about doing things differently. It's about innovation. It's about change, significant change, unexpected change. And to add on to that, this full moon is aspecting Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of unexpected change. It's the planet of revolutions. It's this planet that is unpredictable. It's sort of wild, but it does really impact the world in a certain way. So we're having that really magnified energy of not only Aquarius, but also Uranus, which is the planet tied to Aquarius. So we're having that really unpredictable, innovative, evil genius sort of archetype of energy happening. And so that's happening in your 7th house. So 7th house is the house of partnerships. And having this energy in your chart, there's going to be this really huge shift or epiphany you have when it comes to your partnership life. Now, this can be romantic, but it can be just platonic as well. This can also rule over business partnerships. It doesn't have to be purely romantic, but it usually is, right, with 7th house. But having this full moon in Aquarius in your 7th house, it really triggers this new theme or new pattern of romance for you, this new pattern of what you accept in partnerships, the kind of people you attract, new boundaries. Definitely for you, Leo, I feel like since it's your season right now and you're going through your own transformation and like the spotlight's on you and you're going through a lot of things, because usually around our birthdays, that's when significant changes happen in our life. So you're starting like a new Saturn return, a new solar return, etc. But having that Aquarius energy in your 7th house really triggers that sense of really changing how you approach relationships, really changing what your boundaries are in partnerships, and even changing or connecting with new friends. Aquarius is that sign of friendship and social groups. So you can be kind of igniting a new social group, igniting a new pattern within a social group, starting a new friendship. 7th house, like I said, it can be platonic. It doesn't have to be just romantic, but you're really going to feel that energy of wanting to connect with different people, wanting to relate to people more, wanting to open your horizons and open your mind to new types of people maybe you didn't hang out with before or associate with before, or partner with them or hang out with them or associate with them just because you feel inspired to, because they are unique in some way. So there's this new theme of friendship for you as well as relationships. And so with relationships, I feel like you're kind of breaking old habits as it pertains to the kind of people you attract, the like how you facilitate partnerships, etc. There's this almost like new beginning in love for you. So for some of you Leos, I can feel this manifesting as like a new partnership, a new beginning in love, something you've not even you couldn't even predict, or something you couldn't have expected, because Aquarius, Uranus energy is really unexpected and unpredictable. But you're really going to feel that energy in the bulk of September of this really magnified social energy, starting new beginnings in partnerships, starting new friendships, really having that open mind in partnerships and setting new boundaries in partnerships that are more conducive to your own well-being. And that brings me to the second event that we'll talk about, which is Mars going retrograde. So Mars just went into Leo on, Mars went into Aries on August 16th. However, it's going retrograde on September 9th. And this is kind of a challenging energy because Mars energy wants to push forward, right? Mars energy wants to go, it's impatient at times, and it's going retrograde in your 9th house. So when Mars goes retrograde in your 9th house, you're going to feel this urge to express your beliefs, but kind of like have this almost cautious or hesitant energy when expressing them fully. Especially with Mars energy, it is quite combative and it does lean towards fighting. So you might get into arguments or debates over your beliefs, or feel a lot more willing to argue about what you believe in. Especially with your 7th house being activated, I can see a lot of you guys maybe arguing with people about your beliefs, or I feel like this strong sense for you, Leo, of like believing what you believe and having this innovative idea, for example, or having that conviction of what you believe to be true with that Aquarius energy. And then with that 9th house energy, 9th house Mars retrograde, it's like you're willing to fight for those said beliefs, fight for those innovative ideas, fight for whatever you believe in. And it can be kind of offsetting to people, but I think it's necessary in the Leo's journey right now to kind of really defend their own beliefs, defend what you believe in. And the other thing that I will mention about this is that it's squaring Saturn too. So Mars will be squaring Saturn most of the month. So Saturn energy really restricts things, it delays things. And so having Mars square Saturn, you're going to feel this urge to want to expand as well, because 9th house is expansion. You want to expand your beliefs, expand where you are at the moment, expand your consciousness, but Saturn kind of tempers that down, delays it, refines it. So you might feel a lot of like restriction when it comes to beliefs, or kind of restriction of how you express those. In September for Leo, you definitely will be moderating what you believe in and really reassessing your beliefs and learning how to refine them enough in order to express them to people, maybe without arguing. I definitely feel like arguing about your beliefs is a theme here in September, but for some of you guys, towards the end of September, you can kind of learn how to really express your beliefs and reassess them, but not be too forceful or shoving them down people's throats. So expect that kind of tension with that Mars square Saturn energy. And then on September 17th, we have the new moon in Virgo. So this takes more of like an upbeat tempo, whereas in the beginning of the month, it's a little bit more stressed out with that Mars square Saturn, Mars retrograde, and like Aquarius, full moon, etc. But with the full moon in Virgo, it's happening in your 2nd house. So this is really exciting just because 2nd house is about money. It's about finance. It's really about your values and beliefs. So definitely values and beliefs is a huge theme I'm sensing for you in September, and really sticking to your guns. I feel like sticking to your guns and your beliefs is going to be a huge theme for you in September. You're really going to be feeling that sister sign energy of like Aquarius, I feel like, for you in September. But having this new moon in Virgo in your 2nd house, Virgo is about planning, health, discernment, and you're definitely going to be coming up with a new financial game plan. I think finances are really going to be magnified for you towards the end of the month. Virgo wants to create plans. Virgo energy is the archetype that wants to choose the best outcome. Virgo energy is very logical, it's decisive, it's methodical, right? It's practical. And so with you as a Leo, I feel like with Leo energy, it can kind of tend towards spending in excess and spending a lot on a lot of different things. But with Virgo energy, it wants to refine that habit, and Virgo energy is about habits. So with that new moon in Virgo, it's very powerful for you because it triggers this new pattern of how you spend money, this new financial game plan for yourself, and really integrating your daily values into your daily habits. So values and beliefs is a huge theme in September, yeah, for you. And so you're going to really learn how to integrate those values into how you spend money. Maybe you have this new belief where it's like, okay, I have this belief that freedom is my new top tier priority. So you start spending money in ways that secure your freedom. You start spending money on things that give you freedom, etc. So you can kind of think about that whole system going on where it's like you believe something and then you spend money based on that thing, whereas maybe before you just spent money because things look cute. But with this energy going on for you in September, you're spending money in a very purposeful way, and really with this new moon setting that intention of spending money in a way that is productive for you, spending money in a way that is logical and practical and all those very Virgo-like themes. And that's very powerful because with money, it's something we need to manage, something we need to be practical about. So you're really going to have that energy influencing you towards the end of the month on the 17th and kind of like a couple weeks after that as well, because new moon energy lasts for 2 weeks after the event. So last but not least, the shift. So this shift is happening, the shift of the nodes is happening on September 23rd. And so the nodes are shifting into your 4th and 10th house, and this is a really significant, I feel like the shift of the nodes is like the biggest event this year. And so since it's so important, I will be doing a separate video on it just so this prediction isn't too long for you guys, but I'll do a separate video about this shift. You guys want to subscribe so you don't miss that. And the shift is really going to trigger a new whole life path for you. So we'll talk about that in the next video, which is going to be about the shift. And I'll also be doing the love predictions for September on my Patreon. So you guys can head to my Patreon and subscribe to the Astro Zaddy tier. And I'll link that down below. And I have other pretty cool weekly things on my Patreon that I don't post on my social media. And so speaking of social media, I have other fun little tidbits on my Instagram at AstroKit. So you guys can follow that for more content. And happy birthday to all the Leos watching this, and I'll see you in my Hey Sagittarius. So let's get into the month of September for you and talk about what the major events are in September and how they will influence you personally. So how I usually do my predictions is that I talk about the major events in September. So in this prediction for you, we'll talk about like the 4 major events. I posted the date list in the beginning timestamp of this video, but we'll just talk about the 4 major events and how they influence you, and really just break down how they manifest on a regular basis for you, Sagittarius. And I do my predictions based on rising signs and moon signs. So if you're watching this, you are a Sag rising, or you can watch it for your moon sign too, so Sag rising or Sag moon. And I would say rising is a little bit more relevant for this video. And with that being said, I'm doing this in sidereal astrology, so using the sidereal dates, not using the tropical dates. So with that out of the way, let's just get into it. So September is a huge month. It's like, it has such this like potent energy of shifting. The literal shift of the nodes is happening at the end of the month, which we'll talk about in a second, but there's this huge theme of shifting, this huge theme of creation, this huge theme of breaking of old habits, breaking old patterns. So a lot of change is happening in September, so we'll get into what that means for you, Sagittarius. And so before we get into it, tell me down below what your current mood is with emojis. So I feel like with this month in August, there's a lot of events that are very powerful, and so I'm really curious to know what your current mood is based on these events, based on the astrology right now. What are you feeling at this moment? Tell me down below using emojis. So let's just get into it. So when it comes to the events, the first event happening in September is the full moon in Aquarius. So this full moon is really, really unique in true Aquarius fashion, but it's really unique because it is aspecting Uranus. So we're having kind of like that double influence of Aquarius energy, because Uranus is tied to Aquarius. And so we're having the energy of freedom being magnified, the energy of rule breaking, the energy of change, revolution, unpredictable events. Uranus energy, Aquarius energy is unpredictable. It's not something you can even see coming. And so with this energy in September, there's that huge theme of breaking old patterns, breaking cycles, generational curses, etc. But for you specifically, this full moon in Aquarius is happening in your 9th house. But for you specifically, this full moon is happening in your 9th house. 9th house is all about belief systems. It's about freedom, knowledge. It's about travel as well. So I feel like you're really going to feel that freedom, revolutionary sort of spirit really influence you in the month of September, just because that full moon happens in the beginning of the month, and then full moon energy usually lasts for about 2 weeks after that. So for that first bulk of September, we're having that Aquarius energy really influence us very strongly. And so Aquarius wants to do things differently. Aquarius wants to innovate. It wants to change the world, right? It wants to influence things in a way that hasn't been done before. And so having this energy in your 9th house, you're going to have this almost convicted sense of new belief or new belief systems being kind of injected into your consciousness, and this newfound optimism, this newfound sense of purpose. 9th house rules our destiny. It rules our purpose on a deeper level. So a lot of times when we see the 9th house, we can really see that undercurrent of our purpose, undercurrent of our destiny. And so with this Aquarius energy in your 9th house, you're definitely going to have this newfound perspective on what your purpose even is. What is driving you in life? Where is your fate going? Where's your destiny going? And you're really going to have that sort of change of fate moment, that epiphany moment, that moment where you really decide like, okay, this is my direction. I'm sticking to it. I'm going that way. I'm not compromising that. And 9th house energy also deals a lot with beliefs, so you can be changing your beliefs as well, changing your beliefs on yourself, changing beliefs about other people. Aquarius energy is quite social as well, so you can expect to kind of align with people in a social way that also align with your same beliefs. So maybe you like start believing a whole new thing, a whole new religion, for example, or just have new values, for example, and then align with people who also think the same way. So Aquarius energy really wants to collaborate with like-minded individuals and create common goals. So you might be doing that in September, and especially based on this newfound sense of purpose, this newfound sense of destiny and fate and optimism and expansion. Ninth house wants to expand. And I feel like for Sagittarius, this is such like a magical moment for you, because it's like where you really tap into that like divine genius of the universe, tap into that divine energy of the universe that we can't really see or even like verbalize really, but we just feel it when we have a new idea, when we start a new journey and we feel excited about it. That's what you're going to feel in September, and really feel that almost sense of conviction when it comes to starting new projects and living a life that is maybe different from the norm, but also very innovative. So you're really going to feel that Aquarius energy, I feel like, in a very positive way. Even though this is a full moon, it's still a lot of exciting energy surrounding it because of Uranus being aspected to it. So that brings me to the next event, which is Mars going retrograde. So on September 9th, 2020, Mars goes retrograde, which is kind of like a downer because Mars is an energy that wants to go forward. It wants to be bold. It doesn't want to wait for anything. And so when Mars goes retrograde, it kind of creates that energy of caution and hesitation, which is like not what Mars wants to do at all. And so on top of that, Mars will be squaring Saturn for most of the month, and Saturn is energy that causes restrictions, delays, and so that is not what Mars wants to feel, right? So with this Mars being retrograde in your 5th house and squaring Saturn, it's like you have the urge to move forward with your ideas, right? You have the urge to want to chase this vision you have, chase this grand, optimistic life path that you are on. And Saturn kind of wants to restrict that a little bit. Saturn wants to delay that, and Mars being retrograde as well kind of causes that hesitation energy. It causes that energy of like, okay, let me like step back and revise my actions before I move forward. And that's really purposeful because usually when it comes to especially like Sagittarius, it's like you have that impulsive I guess initiation sort of energy to do something and then you just do it. But Saturn is kind of like being like, okay, stop, wait, be patient. And Mars being retrograde is like stop, wait, be patient. And 5th house is all about creativity. It's about ideas. It's about that sense of divine genius. So you're really going to feel that sense of divine genius in September, but it's going to be kind of moderated by Saturn, moderated by that retrograde energy. And really, you're being asked to kind of refine what you want your path to be, refine what you want your ideas to be, and how to manifest them. So even though you have that exciting Aquarius, Uranus energy in your 9th house, which is kind of like unstoppable in itself, Saturn kind of still asks you to be a little bit patient, be a little bit logical, and refine your plans and really kind of hesitate before you just jump into something, be a little bit more cautious. So even though there's that expansion, there's still that kind of restriction at the same time going on in September for you in your life. And so that brings me to the new moon in Virgo on September 17th, 2020. And so this new moon in Virgo is also very purposeful for you, and just for like the collective, because Virgo energy is very practical, it's plan oriented, it's about health, and Virgo energy is also very discerning. I feel like the Virgo archetype is really about that sense of choosing the best outcome, and it really rules that sense of perfectionism, right? And choosing the best of the best, creating the best plan, the most logical plan. And so you're having that new moon in Virgo in your 10th house. And so if you guys can kind of get a picture now, with the beginning of the month, it's more about that Aquarius vibe, that Aquarius energy, because that full moon kind of triggers the 2 weeks after this event happens. On September 17th, the new moon in Virgo happens. So we'll feel like that new moon in Virgo energy and that vibe towards the end of the 2 weeks of the month, if that makes sense. So we go like Aquarius, Virgo, really sandwiched together in the same month. And so with this new moon happening in your 10th house, for example, you're really creating a long-term plan for yourself. You're really getting down to the nitty-gritty and mapping out what you want your long-term goals to be, your long-term plan to be. I feel like one of the things I wrote down for you is that you're making your dreams a reality in September. And obviously not all of your dreams are going to manifest in 1 month, but you're really mapping out what your dreams are, mapping out how to get from point A to point B. And this is really vital, especially with this new moon in your 10th house. And this is really vital for Sagittarius because you're somebody who can see the bigger picture quite well, but you can struggle with seeing the finer details of things, especially if you don't have like Virgo in your chart, if you don't have any like Mercury in your chart. You can really see like that Jupiterian philosophical view of life. With seeing like the bigger picture, you kind of might not see the smaller details it takes to achieve that bigger picture. So with this new moon in your 10th house, you're really gaining that energy or that influence or that urge to kind of create a plan for yourself, a plan that makes sense, a plan that is practical, a plan that isn't like terribly reckless, which is another like Sagittarius thing. And it's really about working hard on those career endeavors. Virgo energy really wants to perfect, it wants to refine things and make things make sense, like we talked about. And so you're really having that Virgo energy influence your career, and you're writing things out, you're planning things out. 10th house is about long-term goals too. So you're really planning out those long-term goals, making your dreams a reality, making a practical plan for your divine vision. And so I feel like sometimes in life we can like want to manifest things, but then not have the plan to get there. So this is a really powerful month for you because you're gaining that energy of seeing the details, seeing the finer details. And so that brings me to the shift. So I touched on the shift earlier, but this is like, I would say the biggest event of the year, where the nodes go from Gemini, Sagittarius, where they've been for 18 months, and now they're going into Taurus and Scorpio for the next 18 months. And so there's that huge shift happening, and it's so powerful in our lives, powerful in your chart, Sagittarius. It's going into your 6th house. And so we'll talk about what that means for you in a separate video, just because the shift is a huge event and I don't want to bog down this reading with too much information. So with that being said, stay tuned for my next video, which will be about the shift, and you want to be subscribed because you don't want to miss it. And with that being said, I also will do the love predictions for your zodiac sign for September on my Patreon. So if you want to see your love predictions for September, head to Patreon, click the Astro Zaddy subscription, and I'll link that down below so you guys can find the Patreon. And I do like weekly posts on there and have stuff on there that's not on my social media. And then also you guys can head to my Instagram at AstroKit, where I will post these monthly predictions in sort of like Instagram format and like other fun posts as well. So you guys can head to Instagram at AstroKit. I'll link down below my Patreon, and I'll see you, Sagittarius, in my next video. Hey Taurus, so let's get into September and talk about how the major events happening in September will influence you personally. So how I usually do predictions on my channel is that I talk about the major events and then really talk about how they manifest in your everyday life for that specific month. And so for the month of September, there's a lot of events happening, but we'll kind of boil it down to 4 major events and really talk about how those events manifest in your everyday life. And September is a huge month for the collective. There's a lot of powerful energy going on, a lot of shifts happening, a lot of transformation, a lot of change happening, and just this electrifying, exciting energy. So we're going to get into how that manifests in your chart, in your life, and really what's going to happen for you, Taurus. And so I think I forgot to mention that this is using sidereal astrology. So sidereal dates are being used for these predictions, and this is for sidereal Taurus, rising sidereal Taurus moons. So with that out of the way, let's get into these specific events. Before I touch on the first one though, tell me down below, what is your current mood and how do you feel right now based on emojis? So describe your current mood based on emojis. I feel like there's so many powerful energies in the sky right now. I talked about on my Instagram a little bit about like the shift that just happened with Mars and the sun as well. So you guys can go to my Instagram at AstroKit2 for that. But with these powerful energies, tell me down below. I'm curious to know how you feel right now. What is your current mood? You can use emojis to describe it. So let's just get into it. So when it comes to September, right out of the gate on September 2nd, 2020, the full moon is happening in Aquarius. So there's a full moon, it's happening in Aquarius, and this full moon is very unique in Aquarius fashion, in true Aquarius fashion. It's very interesting because not only is it in the sign of Aquarius, but it's also aspecting Uranus. So Uranus is that planet that is also tied to Aquarius. And what is Uranus energy all about? What is Aquarius energy all about? It's about change. It's about innovation. It's about changing the world in some way, changing your life in some way. It's also about sudden change and sudden shifts and things we can't even really expect, especially with Uranus energy. It's very unpredictable. It's very much like that person that is just rogue, that person who's like a revolutionary, that evil genius sort of energy. So we're going to really feel that as a collective with that Aquarius Uranus full moon going on. And so for you specifically though, Taurus, it's happening in your 10th house. And 10th house is about our long-term goals. It's about career as well. So I feel like with this full moon, this energy and how this manifests in your life is that you're really going to think about innovative solutions to your career. And you're really going to be contemplating and reflecting on how to innovate your career in a way that hasn't been done before. With Aquarius energy, Uranus energy, it does rule inventions. It rules doing things that haven't been done before, right? And so with your career specifically, you might be inventing something new. You might be inventing some sort of new, I would say, plan or new strategy. 10th house really brings to mind this theme of strategy. And since you're a Taurus, you already know about strategy and planning quite well, right? Especially when it comes to money. And with this 10th house energy, it kind of magnifies that energy of strategy, that energy of planning, and not just planning things in a traditional way, but doing it in an innovative way, doing it in a way that hasn't been done before, presenting some sort of new business model, for example, really changing the game. This is sort of game changer energy for you, Taurus, especially when it comes to career. So don't be afraid to embrace that energy and really channel it to think outside of the box, especially when it comes to career, taking on a new career that, pushes boundaries in some way. Aquarius wants to push the limit. Aquarius wants to rebel. It wants to do things differently. And so, especially with Uranus in the mix here, it's definitely a recipe for game-changing career moves, game-changing career endeavors, game-changing career plans, etc. Really changing it up a bit. And this is so vital for Taurus because you're definitely someone who can really be fine with doing the same thing over and over again. And maybe even for some Taurus, be afraid of change, but Aquarius and Uranus doesn't play. So I feel you're really going to feel that energy of change, whether you like it or not. But I feel it's going to go sort of in your favor in the aspect of career and your long-term goals, and really approaching things and changing the game and approaching things in an innovative way that hasn't been seen before or done before. I feel for a lot of Taurus, I wrote this down, and I feel this really strongly for you guys, is that you guys can be thinking about how to market a certain spiritual business. I think a lot of you guys, with this full moon in the month of September as well, will be maybe starting your own business officially, especially your own online business. Aquarius does rule the internet, and so you can be taking that big leap to start that business. And this is the best time to do it, the best time to really hop onto that new wave of whatever you're thinking in your mind. And I just feel for a lot of you guys, this will be a spiritual based business, a business based on selling crystals. We talked about this in my career video, but selling crystals, doing readings, etc. So the list goes on, but I really wanted to emphasize that for some Taurus, this will be a spiritual based business endeavor that really changes the game in some way. So expect that. And full moon energy lasts for about 2 weeks after the full moon. So it's happening on September 2nd, but we'll feel that energy pretty much up until September 17th, which is the Virgo new moon, which we'll talk about in a second. But so expect that energy really to be saturated in the beginning weeks of September. So that brings me to September 9th. So September 9th, Mars goes retrograde. So we talked about Mars going into the sign of Aries just on August 16th, so just about a week ago. And so Mars energy is bold. It wants to achieve things. It doesn't want to stop. It doesn't want to be patient. But when it goes retrograde, it kind of causes that theme of hesitation. And so it causes that theme of caution as well. And on top of that, this Mars will be squaring Saturn, and Saturn causes delays. It causes restrictions. So this Mars energy, this energy of desire and ambition, we kind of pause a little bit in September, but not even just pause, but kind of restricted and moderated. And for you, this is happening in your 12th house. So we really talked about that 12th house Mars activation in my previous prediction video, in the August prediction video. But with this 12th house Mars activation, being in retrograde, squaring Saturn, you can really feel this sense of wanting to start something but feeling really held back. And so I feel that really ties to what I said about starting a new business, starting a new endeavor, and having that divinely inspired idea with Aquarius, Uranus energy, that genius energy, that innovative energy. But then Mars squaring Saturn kind of makes you a little bit hesitant to initiate that. Mars rules initiation. So you can kind of feel a little bit that theme of or that sense of self-doubt might be present for you, Taurus, but I feel you have to really put your mind to whatever you want to manifest, and it will still manifest. But with this Mars square Saturn energy, you can kind of cause that theme of self-doubt or second guessing yourself, or just not feeling that passion or ambition or that powerful urge to start something, just because Mars is kind of challenged in September. So you can kind of think about it as like wanting to start something, but then feeling a little bit held back or cautious or hesitant. So you really have to focus on what you want to manifest. And like I said, it will still manifest. It's just like Mars is a little bit tempered right now, or at least it will be in September. And Saturn kind of asks you to think logically before you do something, create a logical plan before you do something. Uranus, Aquarius energy is very, I would say it's kind of impulsive too. It's very much about initiating something really sometimes without thinking. And so Saturn really wants us to think about those ideas, think about what we're doing, make those plans. Saturn is like that archetypical father archetype of like wanting to do things the traditional way in a way that makes sense. So you can kind of struggle with that a bit, especially with that 12th house Mars. Your Mars is kind of challenged in September and for like the next 6 months, where it's like you want to start things, but 12th house energy, it asks you to surrender. So you can kind of feel that push and pull of like wanting to start and then having to surrender, and maybe even doing a lot of reflection on like past lives, or reflection on kind of like those karmic lessons before you launch a new endeavor. And I feel like also another huge thing with this Mars square Saturn energy in your 12th house, it's really about healing activity. So if you feel really stressed from like this Mars energy squaring Saturn, you can easily just do like healing activities, yoga, breath work. That can really help and ease that tension of like that Mars being so challenged in your chart in September. And so that brings me to the Virgo new moon. So like I mentioned, we're starting with a month with that Aquarius full moon. We feel that Aquarius energy in the beginning, and then in the latter half of September, we feel that Virgo energy. And so this new moon's happening in your 5th house. So to make it more exciting, I feel like the Mars 12th house thing is kind of a downer, but with the new moon in your 5th house, this is really exciting when it comes to your creativity, when it comes to your ideas, when it comes to inspiration. And I feel like for Taurus, you're really going to get this divinely inspired idea that can really change your life in some way. You think about like success stories of certain people, of like billionaires, millionaires, they usually have some story where it's like, I just thought of this random idea when I was doing XYZ and then it made me $1 million. So I feel like for a lot of you guys, that can really happen for you, where it's like you think of this $1 million idea very easily. You think of this idea that really changes your life in some way. It doesn't have to do with money, but for a lot of you guys, this can do with money, because I feel like money is kind of a theme for you here. But this can really just do with your own creativity. And I feel like there's like this quote where it's like your creativity is your most valuable asset, or it's like your most valuable currency or something like that. I think Kanye West said that. But whatever your creative ideas are, they can usually bring you a lot of money, success, happiness, alignment, etc. So 5th house is really about creativity, your ideas, your inner child. It's really about what you give birth to in this life. And it literally represents children, so like giving birth to children. But in this case, I feel like it's about really giving birth to some sort of new hobby, new idea, monetizing your hobby, monetizing some sort of creative endeavor that you have, some sort of talent that you have. You are monetizing it, bringing it to the world in some way, creating an idea based on it. And also Virgo rules that sense of practicality. It rules planning things out. Virgo is about discernment and refining things and being kind of like that perfectionist, right? And so having that Virgo energy really influence your 5th house, and having that new moon and just like the combination of everything, I feel like you're creating practical plans to manifest these ideas, right? I feel like you can have an idea. Everyone has great ideas every day, but you really need that plan. You need that Virgo energy to actualize that vision, to actualize that innovative idea you have. You can change the game, but you have to have that plan to really change the game, right? We talked about game changing in the beginning, but I feel like this whole energy is going to come full circle, where at the end of the month, you're going to have a moment where you do plan things out, plan out the vision you have, plan out this idea that you get. It's going to be really powerful for you. And I really feel like with this Virgo energy, you're really going to fine tune whatever your ideas are, whatever your visions are, and really create that practical plan to achieve it, and combine this divinely inspired energy with that practicality. And so once you combine those two things, you really are unstoppable, right? And so with all this talk of shifting, the official shift happens on September 23rd, 2020. You guys want to mark your calendars for that. September 23rd, 2020 is when the nodes shift into Taurus and Scorpio. So the North Node is going into your 1st house. So this is a really huge month for you, Taurus. Like I would say out of all of the zodiac signs. And this shift is really pivotal in your life, pivotal in everyone's life. And so I will dedicate a whole separate video to the shift that's happening, the nodal shift that's happening, because I don't want to bog down this reading too much with too much information, but I'll do a separate video and you guys don't want to miss the shift video. So stay tuned for that, subscribe for that, post notifications on for that. And I will be posting the September love predictions on my Patreon. So if you guys want to know about your love life for the month of September, I'll post it on my Patreon. Also on my Patreon, I have more like weekly updates and information about astrology that I don't post on my social medias. So I'll link that down below. You guys can click the Astro Zaddy subscription tier to subscribe to my Patreon. And also I will be posting this prediction on my Instagram too. So I'll post this in like Instagram format. And I have a lot of cool other tidbits on Instagram too, so you guys can head over there at AstroKit, and I'll see you Taurus in my next video. Hey Virgo, so let's get into the month of September and really talk about the events that are happening in the stars in September and how they will influence you personally in your everyday life. So how I usually do predictions is that I talk about the major events of that month and then really boil it down to how it manifests in your regular life. And so there's a lot of events happening in September. September is a huge month. There's a lot of shifts going on, a lot of change going on, and it's just a huge month for the collective. I can't even stress that enough. And especially for you, since your season is starting mid-September, and it's going to be really exciting. So in the first timestamp of this video, I list out all of the events. However, in this prediction for your zodiac sign, I'll get into the 4 major events and really just talk about how they influence your life specifically. And with that being said, this is for Virgo risings. I usually do predictions based on rising signs. You can watch it for your moon sign too, so Virgo rising, Virgo moon, and also with sidereal astrology. So this is based on the sidereal dates, sidereal shifts, sidereal signs, etc. So sidereal Virgo rising, sidereal Virgo moon. With that out of the way, let's get into these events. So before we get into it, I'm actually really curious to just do like a check-in and know your current mood and how you feel right now as it pertains to your life. And if you can describe it in emojis, comment down below. I feel like with all of this energy going on with Leo season, Mars going into Aries, there's a lot of powerful energy. And I talked about that on my Instagram at AstroKit. You guys can check out that post, but I feel like there's so much powerful energy that we're all really feeling it. So comment down below your mood right now using emojis and how you guys feel at this moment. So let's just get into these events. So when it comes to events on September 2nd, right out of the gate, we're having the full moon in the sign of Aquarius. So with this Aquarius energy, with this Aquarius full moon specifically, it's very unique in Aquarius fashion, not only because it's in the sign of Aquarius, but it's also aspecting Uranus. So Uranus energy is the planet that is tied to Aquarius, and Uranus and Aquarius energy is all about innovation. It's about breaking cycles. It's about breaking habits. It's about breaking rules, literally. It's about rebellion, revolution, freedom, just doing things in a very innovative way. Aquarius wants to change the world. It wants to influence things and shape the world in a very unique way, in a different way. And so we're really all going to be feeling that energy. But for you specifically, Virgo, you're going to feel that energy in your 6th house. So this full moon's happening on September 2nd, and full moon energy lasts for about 2 weeks after the event happens. So we're going to feel that energy in the first half of September, and then we'll feel like that Virgo new moon energy in the second half of September, which I'll talk about that in a second. But let's get into this full moon really quick. So this full moon's happening in your 6th house. This is really powerful energy, and I feel like the main way this will manifest for you, Virgo, is that you're gonna break some sort of habit, break some sort of toxic habit, break a habit that maybe you've been struggling with for a while, and change it in a whole different way. This Aquarius energy, this Uranus energy, really gives us the power and the intention and the sort of liberty and freedom to change our habits if they're toxic to us, if they're not helpful to us, if they're not productive. And for you being a Virgo, you're somebody who is very dedicated towards your habits. Virgo is that sign of habits. Virgo is that energy of doing a certain routine every single day. And 6th house is about routines and health. So you're really going to feel that sense of changing your habits in some way. Really, that sense of also innovating your work ethic. Sixth house rules work as well. It rules problem solving. It really rules the sense of obstacles and how we navigate obstacles. So for you, Virgo, I feel like in September, you're going to gain this whole new perspective and this whole new approach to how you solve problems, how you solve conflicts, how you really overcome obstacles. Sixth house is a house that I feel like gets looked over quite a bit, just because people just don't talk about it that much. But sixth house is really derivative of like how we handle conflict, how we handle obstacles, how do we even overcome things. And so Aquarius energy wants to do things differently. Uranus energy wants to be unpredictable. So you're really going to come up with a new innovative way to overcome obstacles, and really in a smart way. Aquarius energy is a very logical sign. It's an air sign. It's a sign that really, I feel like it works smarter, not harder. So I feel like that's the theme for you. That's the quote for you in September, is working smarter, not harder. And your work ethic is really going to pick up, but it's not going to be like you're working super, super hard. But it's like, I feel like you're going to start working in a way that is way more intelligent, way more smart, in a way that you get more things done and you're more productive, but you're not expending as much physical energy. And also you might be expanding your health routine as well, or kind of refining it, or even just really breaking any health habits that aren't productive for you, any mental habits. Really, this theme of habit is magnified for you in breaking those non-productive habits and really focusing on your spiritual health as well as your physical health and mental health. So this theme of health is also magnified with this full moon, and really approaching your health in a way that is innovative, in a way that is different, in a way that you haven't been doing before, but this Aquarius energy just comes out of nowhere and changes everything. So Aquarius energy is like the game changer energy, and so it's really gonna game change your health, your habits, your routine, your work ethic, and how you overcome obstacles in your life. So with that being said, that brings me to the next major event, which is September 9th, 2020, Mars goes retrograde. So Mars goes retrograde in your 8th house, and we talked about Mars and this Mars energy in the August predictions and how that Mars shifting into Aries, into your 8th house, really manifests. But with Mars going retrograde, it's kind of a challenging energy to deal with, I'm not gonna lie, just because Mars wants to be bold. Mars wants to get things done. Mars is like the energy that is impulsive, it's impatient, it doesn't want to wait for anything. And so Mars going retrograde is about reflection and kind of that sense of hesitation. So with Mars being retrograde, you're gonna feel that sense of hesitation or that sense of caution when it comes to certain things. And to add even more to this, Mars is going to be squaring Saturn. So Saturn is that energy or that planet that represents restriction and delays, and Mars is like the opposite of that. So we're really seeing that energy of Mars really being challenged in September. And for you, this is happening in your 8th house, so you're feeling that energy of 8th house energy combining with that tension of Mars and Saturn. What this means is that you might be backtracking on karmic lessons. Like I said, the key word here is like revisitation, and Mars represents action. So you might be kind of backtracking on kind of like your past mistakes, your past actions. 8th house energy can be quite pessimistic, and Saturn can be kind of pessimistic too. So you might kind of feel that kind of undertone of pessimism at some points in September, just because you have that energy in your 8th house, and 8th house it's not like a house that does see the future very well. It's a house that represents kind of like being a bit pessimistic. So with that being said, you might be kind of thinking about your old lessons that you've learned. Maybe you thinking about your old psychological patterns. 8th house does deal with our psychological mind. 8th house deals with things we can't really see. And so you might be really thinking about things or overthinking things or being a little bit pessimistic or kind of feeling a little bit regretful about certain things. And so you kind of have to watch out for that, especially with like Aquarius energy. It wants to move forward, it wants to push and break those habits, especially in your 6th house. But then the 8th house energy kind of is a little bit more pessimistic, a little bit more regretful, shameful, etc. And so that brings me into the new moon in Virgo. So like I talked about, the beginning of the month is really about that Aquarius energy. Then the latter half of the month is about the Virgo energy. And Virgo season starts on September 16th, I believe, in Sidereal Astrology. And so Sidereal Virgo season starts and you're having this new moon in your 1st house, so the spotlight will be on you during that time. And with this new moon in Virgo, it's really significant because it really shines light on this theme that I see in your chart in September that's really about habit breaking. It's about breaking non-productive habits. It's about doing things in an innovative way and innovating how you handle obstacles. So by the end of the month, with this new moon energy, that's more exciting than full moon energy or like that Mars tension we talked about, but this new moon energy really triggers this new approach to the world for you, Virgo, this new perspective on how you achieve things, this new perspective on life. Virgo energy is about discernment and choosing the best of everything. And it's about really fine-tuning whatever routine you have, fine-tuning things in general, being like that perfectionist archetype, and having that new moon in your first house really represents really fine-tuning your own self, your own habits, how you approach the world, and really becoming the best version of yourself. I feel like by the end of the month, Virgo will really feel at the top of their game, because it's like you really worked hard to achieve that. You really worked smarter, not harder, to achieve this new version of yourself that is so necessary in the world. So expect to feel like this new version of yourself really being born by the end of September, and really taking those innovative habits you develop and breaking those old habits and really developing this new person, really being like that beautiful butterfly by the end of the month. And on September 23rd, 2020 is when the huge shift happens. So this whole month is really about shifts and change and Aquarius energy and Uranus energy, but the nodes actually shift on September 23rd. So you guys want to write that date down. It's probably the biggest day of the year. And for you, Virgo, the nodes are shifting into your 9th and 3rd house. And so the nodes will be in Taurus and Scorpio for the next 18 months, starting September 23rd. And I will dedicate a whole separate video to the nodal shift and the shift that's happening on that day. I don't want to bog down this prediction with too much information, so I'll dedicate a whole separate video for that, and you guys don't want to miss that video. It's a huge, huge event, and we'll talk about what it means for your zodiac sign. And so subscribe so you don't miss that video. And with that being said, I will be doing the love predictions for September on my Patreon. So if you guys want to see what your love prediction is for September, I'll link down below my Patreon. You guys can click the Astro Zaddy subscription if you guys want to know more about that. And then also on my Instagram, I post the same prediction in Instagram format, so you guys can head to my Instagram at AstroKit. And also on AstroKit Instagram, I post like more fun tidbits about astrology, so you guys can head over there or go to my Patreon, and I'll see you Virgos in my next video. Hey Capricorn, so let's get into your prediction for the month of September. So how I usually do the predictions is that I'll talk about the major events happening in September, then talk about how they really manifest in your daily life. With that being said, September is a huge month for the collective. It's a month that is full of shifts, the month full of change, the month that is really going to change the game for 2020. And so we're going to get into what that means for you and what events are happening and how they impact your life. And so this is for Capricorn rising or moon. I do predictions based on rising signs, but you can watch it for your moon sign as well. And then this is using sidereal astrology. So this can be relevant for sidereal Cap rising, sidereal Cap moons as well. You can watch this video for your rising or your moon sign. So now that that is out of the way, let's get into these events that are happening and how they really impact your life and change your life, Capricorn. So before I get into the first event, I'm actually really curious to know, what is your current mood and what are you currently feeling right now, just based on what's happening in the world right now, what's happening in the skies right now. I mentioned on my Instagram about the huge shift that happened with Mars going into Aries, Leo season, etc. I posted it on my Instagram at AstroKit, but I'm really curious to know what your energy is right now, where it's at. Comment down below using emojis, and we'll just get a good check-in about what your current mood is. So let's get into these events though. So when it comes to the first event that is happening, the first event that is happening is the Aquarius full moon. So September 2nd, 2020, the full moon is happening in the sign of Aquarius. And this full moon is really unique in true Aquarius fashion, not just because it's in the sign of Aquarius, but it's also aspecting Uranus. And Uranus is the planet that is tied to Aquarius. And both Aquarius, Uranus energy is really about rule breaking. It's about breaking patterns. It's about the sense of rebellion, revolution, doing things differently, doing things in an innovative way, doing things that are unpredictable. Aquarius energy, Uranus energy is that person you never really saw coming, but really changes the game in some way. So the way I would describe this full moon is like game changer energy. And so for you, Capricorn, this is happening in your second house. So second house is about finance. It's about our value system. It's really about the things that we have in our life and really what we value on a fundamental level. So with this Aquarius energy really influencing your second house of values and finance, you're going to experience some sort of financial breakthrough and really experience this epiphany as it pertains to how you make money, how you create money in your life, how you create income for yourself. Aquarius is that energy that's like, okay, this has been done this certain way for hundreds of years, but let me come in and just change it all up. And so for you, this is happening when it comes to your finances. So I feel like for you, Capricorn, you are like that sign that is really focused on finance. You're focused on your goals and achieving things. And second house really deals with what we value and own. And I feel like it really like aligns with that Capricorn archetype, Capricorn life path. And so definitely with this Aquarius full moon, you're going to think of new ways to make money and really new innovative ways to make money. We're in such a unique point in society right now where anything is really possible. I feel like anything with the given planetary energies in the sky right now, there's this theme of like malleability and being able to change your life and shift it the way you want it to be and really do what you want, just given the energy of change that's present in society. And so this Aquarius full moon is really going to magnify that for you, and you're really going to almost have like an overnight financial elevation in your life. I can see this manifesting for some Capricorns even, where it's like you like are at one point financially right now, but then after this full moon in September, really after September as a whole, you come up with a new money making idea, a new idea to make money on the internet. Aquarius rules internet, Uranus rules internet. So second house, Aquarius, Uranus, this whole mix-up recipe you got going on is really about innovative ways of making money on the internet. So I see this huge financial breakthrough for you if you've been stagnating a bit, if you've been having trouble with finances, especially with like Saturn and Pluto near your second house. You're gonna really break through that in September, come up with a new way to make money, new revenue stream, a new way to really just, I see this for a lot of Capricorns. I can't help but say it because I feel it so strongly that you will have this overnight success story, have this overnight elevation in finances, this kind of overnight elevation where it's like maybe you're like someone who earns a certain amount of money, you earn like 5 figures, then you go to 6 figures overnight, or you earn 4 figures, you go to 5 figures overnight. So it's like that huge like jump to the next level, if that makes sense, for a lot of Capricorns. I can feel that so strongly. And this almost like eruption of new electric energy as it pertains to making money and just really changing the game in your financial life about how you make money and really deviating from that traditional way of making money and just making money in a really smart way, in a really intelligent way, in a way that really aligns with the energies in the universe right now and deviates from the norm, which is what Aquarius Uranus is all about, is deviating from that traditional norm of making money for you, Capricorn, in September. So that's really exciting. And so that brings me to the next major event, which is Mars going retrograde on September 9th, 2020. And so this is a really huge event just because Mars just went into Aries, and we talked about that in the August predictions video. And so Mars is going retrograde in your 4th house. Mars is going to be in your 4th house for pretty much the next several months until January 2021. But with Mars going retrograde, it causes this sort of like hesitation energy, this cautious energy, because what is Mars? Mars is the planet that represents action, ambition, initiation, doing things. Mars doesn't want to wait for things. Mars is impatient and impulsive. So when it comes to this Mars energy being tempered by retrograde, it causes you to kind of feel a little bit more held back, or not even held back, I want to say, but more so kind of questioning your decisions. It causes kind of like that theme of like second guessing yourself. And then we're having Saturn square Mars for most of the month. So Saturn is also kind of that energy of restriction, delays, moderation, refinement. And so Saturn aspecting Mars for the month, it causes Mars to really not be in its most peak position. Even though it is in Aries, Aries is that sign of boldness and initiations, but Saturn is that sign that represents, or that planet that represents restriction and delays. So you can kind of expect to feel that restriction and delay, especially in your home life. You're having this energy really in your 4th house. So you can expect to feel tension in your family dynamic, tension in your like living situation, whoever you live with. Maybe more arguments might take place.
Mars is a very combative energy. It's a very assertive energy on its extreme level. It can be very aggressive and really pick fights with people. And since Mars is going to be so challenged in September, you can expect to maybe feel a little bit more combative with family members, people you live with, your home environment. Like, I feel like almost for a lot of you guys, this can manifest as like just being ticked off by the littlest thing from like your roommate, the littlest thing from like your family member, your mom, your dad, whoever you live with. Just like little things they do will just like send you off the rails, just because this Mars is so strained. And so you can expect to also feel kind of reflective on the past. Fourth house represents past energy. And so I feel like for you, Capricorn, there's kind of like that theme of backtracking a little bit, or kind of retracing your steps quite a bit. So even though you're having like that exciting new energy in your second house about innovation and Aquarius and Uranus and all of this new electrifying energy, squaring Saturn kind of tempers that down a bit and really asks us to really reflect on our steps before we take new leaps of faith. And especially for you having Mars in your fourth house, you're going to really be reflecting on what the best outcome is and really retracing those steps of yours, retracing past mistakes, retracing past events, and feeling that tension of being a little bit more cautious or hesitant with your energy as it pertains to how you take action on things. And also this can manifest as trouble with family as well, and just like arguments with family members and just like having that kind of tension in your family dynamic. So that's kind of the challenging part of September because of this Mars square Saturn energy and having it in your fourth house. You can expect that to manifest that way. But that brings me to a more exciting event, which is the Virgo new moon on September 17th. And so we talked about that Aquarius full moon that's kind of shaping the first half of the month, and then the second half of the month is shaped by this Virgo new moon. New moon energy also lasts for 2 weeks after it happens, and so this Virgo energy is ushering in a sense of practicality. It's Virgo season starting on the 16th, and so there's a sense of health and habits and routine and productivity. Virgo wants to get things done, wants to create a plan for things and accomplish that. And so you're having this new moon energy, this new initiatory energy in your 9th house. So this is really exciting just because 9th house is about expansion. It's about expanding beyond boundaries. I feel like 9th house really carries that sense of limitlessness. And so 9th house also rules travel. It rules higher education, higher knowledge. It also rules expansion of consciousness as well, and destiny and purpose too. And so for you, Capricorn, I feel like with this Virgo new moon on the 17th and the latter half of September, you're going to have this newfound sense of purpose in your life, this newfound sense of optimism in your life, this new plan that helps you actualize your long-term goals. And so if we bring it around full circle to that full moon in the beginning of the month, the full moon is about finances and kind of doing things or approaching your finances in an innovative way, in a game-changing way. And so there's this game changer energy for you definitely with finances and how you approach that. And at the end of the month, you're really creating that plan, that financial plan maybe, that business plan maybe, that plan to really actualize your goals, actualize your dreams, and put that Virgo practicality, that Virgo logic, that Virgo work ethic behind those dreams that you have, behind those big visions you have. 9th house is big dreams and visions, but Virgo kind of gives you that practical approach to it, which I feel like is very necessary because we can have a huge dream but not really know the steps to get there, know the point A to point B kind of way to get there. But Virgo, this new moon in Virgo really gives you that influence of practicality and really logical planning and creating a plan that makes sense from start to finish. And I feel like that's already a really good skill you have, Capricorn, where you're really good at making plans and like 5-year plans, 10-year plans. You're the sign that kind of represents the future, right? And you're really future oriented. And so you can expect to really feel that future orientedness in September, where you do really plan out your future and not just plan it out in like chunks or like in a vague way. This is like really specifically like scripting your life down to the T type of energy with this Virgo new moon in your 9th house. So really you can plan for whatever goal you have and really plan for whatever vision you have, and you're really going to have this newfound sense of optimism, faith, and purpose in life, which is really exciting. And on September 23rd, 2020 is the huge shift. So this is the day where the nodes shift. The nodes have been in the same signs for the last 18 months, but on September 23rd, you guys can take note of that date, September 23rd, the nodes go into Taurus and Scorpio. And for you, this means that Taurus is your 5th house, and so the nodes are going into your 5th, 11th house axis. So this is really exciting, and I will dedicate a whole video to this shift just because it deserves its own video. It's a huge event. It's the biggest event of the year, and I don't want to bog down this reading too much with the shift that's happening. So you guys can stay tuned for that video and subscribe because you don't want to miss it. And also on my Patreon, I will be doing the love predictions for September 2020. So if you want to know your love predictions, that's my Patreon. Click the Astrology subscription. I'll link that down below. And then also on Patreon, I have a lot of other weekly posts and knowledge about astrology. I don't post on my social media. And so speaking of social media, I will be posting this prediction on my Instagram. So like Instagram format version of this. And so my Instagram is AstroKit, and I post a lot of other fun tidbits on there too. So with that being said, I will see you Capricorns in my next video.
Hey Gemini, so let's talk about the month of September and talk about what the month of September has in store for you personally. So the way I usually do my predictions is that I talk about the major events, the major astrological events of the month, and then talk about how they really manifest in your personal life. And so September, in just a few words, it's such a powerful month. It's such a game-changing sort of month, and we're going to talk about what that means for you and your life, Gemini. And so for the full list of events happening in astrology in September, I have that posted on my Instagram. And in this video, we're going to talk about like 4 major events and then talk about how they really manifest in your life. So with that out of the way, let's just get into it. Now, this is for Gemini rising or moon. I do my predictions based on rising signs and moon signs. So you can watch this video for Gemini rising specifically, or even Gemini moon if you want to too. And also this is using sidereal astrology, sidereal dates, not the tropical dates of astrology. So with that out of the way, let's just get into these events. So before we get into this first event, which is really powerful, tell me down below, using emojis, describe your current mood right now. I feel like with the Leo new moon that just happened, as I film this today, the Leo new moon is today, but tell me down below how you feel about the current energies in the universe, how you feel in your personal life using emojis. I'm really curious to know what you guys are feeling at this moment. So comment your mood down below. And so with that being said, let's get into these events. So this first event that's happening on September 2nd, 2020 is the full moon. And so this full moon is really powerful because it's in the sign of Aquarius. And not only is it in the sign of Aquarius, it's also aspecting Uranus. Uranus is the planet associated with Aquarius. And so Aquarius, Uranus energy, as you can imagine, is game-changing energy. It's the energy of change. It's the energy not just of change, but radical change, unexpected change. Uranus carries this very unpredictable theme to it, and so does Aquarius. And so with this full moon, it's going to really create this strong shift in our lives. So let's talk about what's part of your life is being shifted with this full moon on September 2nd. So Gemini, in your chart, this full moon in Aquarius is happening in your 9th house. So this is really powerful just because the 9th house is all about beliefs. It's about expansion. It's about expanding your mind, expanding your consciousness. And Aquarius is about doing things differently, doing things in an innovative way. And so with this full moon, you're going to experience almost like an epiphany. I feel like a lot of Geminis are going to have this aha moment where you just realize something about how you view the world, about your perspective, about your own spiritual perspective specifically. And it's just going to change your life in some way. I feel like before our life changes, our mind changes, our perspective changes, our values change. And so your beliefs are changing as well. But I feel like with this full moon in Aquarius and Uranus being in the mix there too, I feel like it's going to be a positive change for you, a life-changing change for you, where it's like your mind changes, your belief changes, and then your life subsequently changes after that. And you might have a shift in purpose as well. 9th house really guides our destiny in life. It shows us our purpose in life at times. And so when you have this powerful energy of a full moon in Aquarius in your 9th house, of course, there is this shift in purpose for you, or you might have epiphany an epiphany about your purpose, an epiphany about what you're meant to do in this life, about your destiny, this aha moment about what your purpose truly is, what your destiny and fate is. And so that's very powerful. This is a very powerful new moon, full moon for Gemini specifically. And so I also wrote down for you that this full moon carries this like third eye clarity sort of vibe for you, if that makes sense, where it's like your third eye is opening, your consciousness is expanding, your crown chakra is vibrating. There's just kind of like this very spiritual undertone for you with this full moon, and it really brings to light this almost like spiritual awakening sort of vibe, if that makes sense. And it carries like this really futuristic theme for you specifically, Gemini. So expect to really feel like that spiritual consciousness expansion, channeling downloads, channeling messages, intuitive messages, having those epiphanies, aha moments. This is very powerful and very life-changing for Geminis. And so that brings me to the next event, which is Mars retrograde. So Mars goes retrograde officially on September 9th. And so Mars just moved into Aries, and we talked about Mars moving into Aries in my previous video, in the August predictions video. And so Mars moving into Aries is a very powerful, bold, initiatory energy. However, when Mars goes retrograde, it kind of causes Mars to be a bit challenged. It causes Mars to kind of feel more hesitant and cautious, where Mars wants to be more so impulsive and bold. It going retrograde for a bit kind of causes that hesitant energy where Mars doesn't really want to be in that. So you're having that energy in your 11th house. And so this is kind of manifesting for you, Gemini, as feeling a little bit stagnated or blocked when it comes to manifesting your goals, manifesting your opportunities. And this event is also significant because Mars is going to be squaring Saturn for most of the month, and Saturn is also that energy of delays and blockages and restricting things. And so Mars is going to be really challenged for a good chunk of time in September. And so since this is in your 11th house is about gains, opportunities, long-term desires, you might have trouble kind of manifesting that future that you truly want. We talked about that futuristic theme just a second ago. So September for you is going to have this really strong futuristic theme, but at the same time, Saturn squaring Mars and Mars being retrograde, it kind of causes you to rethink things and look back on things and leap or think before you leap. And really, I feel like there's this urge where you want to proceed with an opportunity, proceed with a certain goal, but you might second guess yourself a bit. Mars being retrograde, Saturn squaring Mars is like that second guessing yourself energy, self-doubt energy. So you really have to like focus on what you want to manifest. And I feel like that manifestation, belief, quality is going to be strong for you because your 9th house is activated. But just be wary of that Saturn energy, Mars energy kind of feeling a little bit more self-doubtful. But as long as you hold that belief in your mind, I feel like you can transcend any sort of doubt within yourself. And there might be tension within your friend groups as well. Mars energy is very combative. It's very aggressive. It tends to argue a lot, and that's how it manifests in regular life. So maybe in September you might experience some arguments with your friends or arguments within your friend groups. 11th house does rule friend groups, so you're having that kind of tension energy, cautious energy in your 11th house of friend groups. So you might have a little bit of tension or arguments with your friends or just people you're associated with in a social sense. But it will kind of temper out towards the end of September. So that brings me into the next event, which is the new moon in Virgo. So this new moon in Virgo is happening on September 17th. So this new moon, essentially, it triggers a new energy as it pertains to planning, as it pertains to goals. Virgo energy is very practical, it's very logical, it's methodical, it wants to get down to the nitty-gritty details. And so you can kind of relate to that Virgo energy already since you are ruled by Mercury, like Virgo. And so if you guys can take a picture of this where it's like, or get a picture of this where in the beginning of the month we're starting with that Aquarius energy, and the full moon from Aquarius energy lasts for about 2 weeks, and then starting on the 17th the new moon in Virgo energy is triggered. So the first half of the month is like Aquarius themed, the second half is very Virgo themed. And so you're having this Virgo new moon specifically in your chart, Gemini, in your 4th house. So you're really considering that planning energy, that logic energy, that Virgo energy that does deal with healing as well, as it pertains to family, as it pertains to your home, your living environment. So this is a month where you really focus on your home life, where you're really focused on improving your home, improving the relationships within your home. Even if you don't live with your family, maybe you live with roommates or just whoever you're around, you kind of work on improving your situation some way. And really, I get this theme for you of laying a certain foundation or creating some sort of foundational plan for yourself when it comes to your goals, or even just like your home life. Like, let's say you wanted to move somewhere new or improve your home in some way. This is the month where you do really set that foundation, lay that plan. Fourth house really brings to mind this theme of foundation. And Virgo energy is really about planning, so you can really think about that theme of like planning and foundations and creating foundations for yourself. And that fourth house energy also, it's really about taking care of that inner self, that inner emotional well-being. So expect to really be working on your inner health, your inner wealth, really working on that inner journey, that inner spiritual healing. Virgo is that sign of healing too. So you're going to feel that really starting on the 17th and really like the latter half of September, whereas the first half of September, we already talked about that Aquarius energy, that 9th house energy, that 11th house energy too. So with that being said, the shift is happening. So there's the shift happening, the nodal shift. This is probably the biggest event of the year, Gemini. I won't lie to you guys. It's happening on September 23rd. So I've alluded to this in previous videos, and it's like finally here. And so the shift is happening in your 12th and 6th house axis. The north node's going to your 12th house of Taurus, and the south node's going to your 6th house of Scorpio. And so since this shift is so important and game-changing, I will dedicate a whole separate video to that shift, just because I don't want to bog down this video with too much information. So with that being said, if you guys want to know your love prediction for September, head to my Patreon. I'll link it down below. You guys can click the Astro Zaddy tier to gain access to that love prediction for September. Then also on my Instagram, I have the predictions that I just told you guys now in Instagram format, and I have the dates for the month and just like the written out part of this video on my Instagram at AstroKit, so you guys can follow that. And also head to my Patreon if you want to know your love prediction, and I'll see you Geminis in my next video. Hey Libra, so let's get into your prediction for September and talk about what's happening for you and your life in the month of September 2020. So the way I usually do my predictions is that I talk about the major events, the major astrological events of the month, and then talk about how they manifest in your personal life. And so in September, in just a few short words, it's such a powerful month. It's a game-changing month. It's a month of shifts and change, but like really exciting change. So we're really going to get into what that means for you in your life, Libra. And on my Instagram, I have the full list of events listed out for September. There's quite a few, but in this video, we're just going to focus in on about 4 major events and then really talk about how those manifest in your life. And so with that being said, this video is for Libra rising or Libra moon. I usually do my predictions based on rising signs, so you can watch this for your rising sign. Feel free to watch this video for your moon sign timestamp as well, so rising or moon. And this is also using sidereal astrology, using the sidereal dates in astrology. So this isn't using tropical at all, it's using sidereal. With that out of the way, let's just get into these events. So the first event I want to talk about is really powerful, really strong. And before I talk about it, I'm actually really curious to know what your current mood is. So right now, as I film this, the day of filming this is the Leo new moon, and there's a lot of powerful energy going on. And I'm curious to know what you guys are feeling right now. So if you can describe your mood in emojis, comment down below. I'm curious to know your current mood. So with that being said, let's get into this first event, which is the Aquarius new moon. The Aquarius full moon. So the Aquarius full moon is happening on September 2nd. It's happening in your 5th house. And so this full moon is so powerful just because it's in Aquarius, and Aquarius is that sign of innovation, of change. Aquarius is that game changer archetype, right? And then not only is it in Aquarius, but it's also aspecting Uranus, and Uranus is that planet associated with Aquarius. Uranus is almost like a more potent version or manifestation of Aquarius energy, where it represents unpredictable change, unpredictable events. It's this energy that's very electric, and like I said, this theme of game changing is really present with this Aquarius full moon. And so this is happening in your 5th house, Libra. So 5th house is about creation. It's about romance. It's about your own personal happiness, your own personal hobbies. And it's this house that really represents self-expression. So I feel like this full moon, honestly, Libra, is really special for you just because it represents really innovating something you've been doing as a personal hobby. Maybe you've been over the quarantine, maybe you've invested yourself in a new job endeavor, a new hobby, something that really brings you a lot of joy. Fifth house really represents joy and passion, and Aquarius energy is about innovation and doing things differently, like we talked about. And so with this full moon, you can expect to kind of have some sort of divinely inspired, unique idea or creative idea that really pushes you forward in a way that's not like materially successful necessarily, but like just pushes you forward in the sense of having purpose. I have this strong feeling for Libras that this full moon represents you gaining some sort of new creative idea that gives you a lot of purpose. Fifth house is that house of creation, of progeny, of children, right? And whatever we give birth to, we can see with the fifth house, literally and metaphorically. So metaphorically, for a lot of Libras, I feel like you are giving birth to some sort of creative genius idea, and it could be really along the lines of like what you've already been doing. So like I mentioned, in quarantine, you've probably already have been doing like a lot of little hobbies here and there, but this is the moment in September where you really gain that huge idea that can really change your life. And I feel like I was reading this book earlier, which is funny because it's like a really strong synchronicity right now, where to be successful in life, all you really need is one really great idea. There's so many billionaires and millionaires and successful people that just started with one idea and now they're like living lavish. I feel like that energy is also very relevant for you, Libra. In September, you do gain that really genius creative idea that's really unique and innovative and really changes the game, right? And not just the game of your life, but changes the game of others around you. So the world needs your ideas, Libra. The world needs you to express yourself creatively, and I feel like you're really going to gain that divinely inspired idea with this full moon in Aquarius in your fifth house. So that's extremely exciting for you, Libra. And that brings me to the next event, which is Mars retrograde. So Mars goes retrograde on September 9th, 2020, and this retrograde is also unique because it's going to be squaring Saturn for most of the month. And so Mars energy, Mars literally just shifted into Aries. We talked about that in the August predictions, and Mars energy is bold. It wants to move forward. It's very aggressive, impulsive. It doesn't want to wait for anything. And so with Mars being retrograde, especially squaring Saturn, it really challenges Mars and challenges Mars in all of our charts, because Mars being retrograde, Mars being squared by Saturn, it kind of creates that energy of second guessing yourself, that energy of self-doubt, that energy of caution and hesitation, whereas Mars is usually like that push forward energy. It's being really restricted and delayed in September. So what this means for you personally, Libra, is that Mars is going to be in your seventh house. We talked about that Mars in the seventh house energy really in my August predictions video, but in September, how this might manifest for you is really strong tension within your relationships, strong tension within your partnerships. It doesn't even have to just be like romantic. It can be platonic as well, but kind of having that cautious, hesitant energy of like, okay, I want to push forward with this relationship. I want to do this and I want it to go this way, but Saturn squaring Mars and Mars being retrograde, it kind of causes you to be patient. It causes you to really, what's the saying? Like, think before you leap, and really not take too many hasty jumps or make hasty decisions within your relationships. And also, I feel the need to tell you guys that with seventh house, it does represent business partnerships as well. So this could mean for a lot of you guys not to sign certain contracts, or be wary before you sign certain contracts. I know a lot of you guys are experiencing a lot of career success and a lot of career elevation. We've been talking about that in the other predictions videos. And with that career success, it's, oh my god, there's like another synchronicity. I feel like this reading is really special for Libras for some reason, but when it comes to another career success, or when it comes to career success in general, you get a lot of offers, contracts, brand deals. And so I feel the urge to tell you guys that be careful with signing contracts and careful with who you do business with. I think that's the message here, with Mars being in your seventh house, Mars being challenged, Mars being squared by Saturn. There's kind of like that wait energy, like that patient energy of like, okay, yeah, that's a good contract, but let me just think it over really quickly, and then maybe at the end of September when the new moon in Virgo happens, maybe it's better to sign it. But really, it's kind of like that tempered energy of like waiting before you do things when it comes to contracts, business, relationships, marriage, etc. So that is that Mars square Saturn energy, which is more challenging, the more challenging part of the month. But that brings me into the new moon in Virgo. So the new moon in Virgo is on September 17th, and it's happening in your 12th house, Libra. And with a new moon in Virgo, Virgo energy is about healing, it's about planning, it's about logic, it's about really getting into the nitty-gritty. And Virgo represents perfectionism, it represents the finer details of things. And so with Virgo being in your 12th house, this is a really powerful energy for you, just because 12th house is about spirituality. It's about faith, it's about surrendering, it's also about how we navigate our own subconscious mind. And so with Virgo being in your 12th house, I feel like it's very productive for you, this new moon in your 12th house, just because Virgo is that sign of habit, it's that sign of work ethic and productivity. So I definitely see you initiating and integrating new spiritual habits. Virgo is that sign of habits, and it's funny because 12th house is the sign of, or 12th house is the house that is connected to Pisces, and Pisces is Virgo's sister sign. And so with that Virgo energy in its own like sister sign house, I feel like it's more productive than it usually is when 12th house energy comes into the equation. And so you might also be refining your spiritual routine and really just creating some sort of spiritual routine for yourself. I really see you guys doing something that is really productive for yourself, but it's not really just physically productive, but like spiritually productive, mentally productive, really creating those spiritual habits, those mental habits that are conducive to your success, conducive to those ideas you will be creating in September. And then so I will say it brings to mind that sense of discipline as well, because 12th house can be kind of like that house that isn't very active. It's not like an action oriented house, but Virgo is more action oriented. So it brings to mind like you being more productive, disciplined when it comes to achieving those spiritual goals, achieving those goals of better mental health. I feel like mental health is a huge theme here, starting on September 17th, and really the latter half of the month is really working on your spiritual health, that mental health. And once your mind is healthy, then you're pretty much unstoppable, right? And so you can expect that Virgo new moon energy to insert itself September 17th, and then for the next 2 weeks after that, the new moon energy lasts. And then in the beginning of the month, the Aquarius moon starts on September 2nd, and then the full moon energy lasts 2 weeks after that. So you can kind of think about the month of September being sort of like that Aquarius energy in the first half and then Virgo in the second half. So Virgo Aquarius is kind of like that strong energy in the entire month. And so that brings me to the shift. So the shift of the nodes is happening finally on September 23rd, and this is, I would say, the biggest event of the year. It's really, really powerful, and we talked about the nodes shifting previously on my channel, and so the nodes in your own chart are going to be shifting to your 8th second house axis. The nodes are shifting to Taurus and Scorpio, so this is really, really powerful and really gives you like a really spiritual theme to your month overall. But what I will do is do a whole dedicated video to the shift, because it's its own topic. It's the biggest event of the year, and I don't want to bog down this reading too much with that as well. So with that being said, stay tuned for that video on my channel where I will talk about the shift. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I will be doing the love predictions for September on my Patreon. So if you want to know your love predictions, I'll link my Patreon down below. You guys can click the Astro Zaddy tier to subscribe to that information. And then also on my Instagram, I will have this prediction I just told you on Instagram format. I'll have the list of dates of events for September on my Instagram too. So head to my Instagram at AstroKit for more information, and I will see you Libras in my next video. Hey Aquarius, so let's get into your prediction for September. And so the way I usually do my readings when it comes to predictions is that we'll talk about the major events of the month. So in September, in just a few short words, it's a really powerful, game-changing sort of month with a lot of shifts in it. And you guys are kind of like the stars of the show this month, and I'll explain why later, but it's really interesting to think about the events that are happening this month and the sign of Aquarius and Aquarius people that are watching this. And so with that being said, this video is for Aquarius risings. So I usually do my predictions based on rising signs, and moon signs can resonate too. So it's also relevant for sidereal astrology. So I'm going to use the sidereal dates, sidereal astrology. So sidereal Aquarius rising, sidereal Aquarius moon. And also when it comes to the month of September, there's a lot of astrological events going on, and I'll be listing them out on my Instagram, like all of the events. But in this video, we will be talking about like 4 major events and how they really influence you on a personal personal level. So my Instagram is at astrokit if you guys want to see the full list of events, but like I said, we're just going to talk about the major ones in this video. So let's just get into it and talk about this first event. Now, before we get into it, I'm actually really curious to know what your current mood is. So tell me down below using emojis what your current mood is. There's such powerful energy going on in the cosmos right now. When I film this, the day that I film this is actually the new moon in Leo. So comment down below what your current mood is using emojis. I'm curious to know what you guys are feeling at this moment. So let's just get into this first event. So this first event is the full moon, and it's on September 2nd, and it's in the sign of Aquarius. So this full moon is happening in your sign, and this full moon in Aquarius is really responsible for a lot of the energy we will feel in September, hence why I called you guys the stars of the show for this reading, and really for September, because Aquarius energy is really powerful and potent in the month of September. And not only is this full moon in your sign, but it's also sextiling Uranus. So Uranus and Aquarius energy is going to be kind of paired up, teamed up in September. And Uranus energy is that planet that is tied to your sign. So Uranus energy, Aquarius energy is about innovation. It's about unpredictability. It's about doing things in a very innovative way, in a very game-changing way. If there is a word for September, I would definitely describe it as game-changing, and it's because of this Uranus energy and because of Aquarius energy, which is known to be the game changer, right? The innovator, the inventor of the Zodiac. And so the way this affects you personally is that it's happening in your first house, so it's happening front and center in your chart. And I feel like what this really specifically boils down to for you Aquarius risings, Aquarius moons, is epiphanies, is revelations, is having this psychic clarity that maybe you didn't have before or you haven't felt lately. I know we talked about in my last video about how you have your first house ruler Saturn, it's in the 12th house, so that kind of causes a lot of kind of blockages or pessimism a little bit, but with this full moon it represents this psychic clarity, this sense of objectivity, this true potent Aquarius energy we need in the world. And I feel like with this full moon and what it's going to gift you is a new innovative perspective on life. The key word of Aquarius, of Uranus, is innovation. So, and first house really shows us how we approach the world, how we perceive the world. And we can always look at our ascendant sign, aka our first house and ascendant sign is the same thing. We can always look at that house to really see where our life is headed, what our life path is. I did a video about your life path and your ascendant sign quite a bit ago, but it's still on my channel, where the ascendant sign you have really flavors your whole life. So Aquarius is that sign and archetype that really flavors your whole life if you're an Aquarius rising. And so with this full moon, you're kind of having this full circle moment of like, okay, this is my life, this is my perspective, how do I change it, how do I innovate it? That's the constant journey for Aquarius risings, I feel like, is how do I innovate this thing? How do I take this old thing and make it new? How do I be a game changer, really? How do I innovate things, invent things? And so with this full moon, it's really going to gift you that energy of new innovative perspective and approach to the world, especially if you've been feeling stagnant lately, especially since you've had Taurus or you've had your first house ruler in the 12th house, and that kind of causes stagnation. I feel like with this full moon, it's really going to push you forward and push you to tackle those things you maybe haven't been tackling lately, or really innovate and really become that true Aquarius spirit that you're known to be and the world really wants to see from you. And so that brings me to the next event, which is September 9th. So on September 9th, Mars goes retrograde, and the unique thing about this is that Mars is going to be squaring Saturn. So Mars just went into Aries, and we talked about that in the August predictions video, and that's really bold energy. It's impulsive energy. It's energy that wants to initiate. And so with Mars going retrograde and having it square Saturn, it kind of restricts that boldness. It restricts that impulsivity. Saturn really asks Mars to take a step back and think before it leaps, so to speak. And so you can really feel this energy specifically for you, Aquarius, in your third house. And so it's kind of hard energy to deal with, just because, like I said, Mars is like that go, go, go energy, and Saturn is like stop, stop, stop. And having that retrograde in Mars is like that second guessing yourself sort of energy, or double backing sort of energy, or cautious or hesitant energy. And you're having that in your third house of communication. of work projects, of peers and associates and people that surround you. And I feel like how this will manifest for Aquarius is that you might be kind of like second guessing your own projects, second guessing whatever you want to publish. The third house kind of deals with that theme of like publishing and writing and journaling and blogs and media, right? And so you might be someone who works online, for example. Aquarius does rule the internet too. So a lot of Aquarius do probably work online or like do like little online projects. And so with this Mars energy and this tension and restriction and delays in your third house, you might feel that energy of like second guessing what you publish, second guessing what you write, second guessing just like a lot of your work endeavors. And really tempering out like what you want to publish and do, and not being so impulsive or bold about it. So that Mars energy is kind of hard to deal with, but as long as you still kind of stay true to your own plan, your own vision. Aquarius, you have so many visions, right? But not being too caught up in that Saturn energy that kind of causes you to doubt yourself in your own publishing and your own works and stuff. And this also might be, I feel like this might manifest for a lot of Aquarius as having that urge to start something, which is Mars energy, or urge to start work projects specifically, which is third house, but feeling kind of blocked by Saturn. So you have that urge to start things, urge to communicate, urge to like do this and that and the other thing, but Saturn kind of is like, slow down, especially with Saturn in your 12th house, and that's your first house ruler. It's kind of like that slow down energy. So it kind of manifests as like just having patience, I feel like, for a lot of the month, and having that, you know, grounded sense of like, okay, this is the bigger vision, I'm going to get to it and achieve it, but right now I just have to deal with these obstacles, which is that Saturn energy. And so that brings me to the next event, which is the new moon in Virgo. So the new moon in Virgo is happening on September 16th or September 17th, I mean, and it kind of shifts the energy from the beginning of the month, where the beginning of the month is really based on that Aquarius vibe, because the full moon in Aquarius lasts, or the energy from that full moon lasts for about 2 weeks after the full moon, so after September 2nd, and the second half of the month it begins like this new kind of Virgo theme in our lives, if that makes sense. So if you get the picture, it's like the month will be about Aquarius and then it'll be about Virgo energy kind of like in the latter half. And so this new moon in Virgo is happening in your 8th house. So this energy, I can't even like explain it. It's just so transformational, right? 8th house energy is about transformation. You're having this new moon in Virgo in your 8th house. And so 8th house is usually kind of a dark house, or a house that's kind of pessimistic. But since you have the new moon energy, which is about initiation and new beginnings, in your 8th house, it does kind of take more of a positive spin. And the way this will manifest for you, Aquarius, is that in September, you will really be healing your shadow self, healing those doubtful thoughts, healing anything that's in your shadow that you haven't recognized yet. It's gonna reveal itself with this new moon, September 17th, and you're given the chance to heal it. And since it is new moon energy, you have more of like a desire to heal it and less of like doubtful or like avoidant approach to healing your shadow self, because when it comes to shadow work, a lot of us can avoid it. It's easy to avoid. It's something not everyone is like wants to do all the time, but with the energy in your chart in September, you're going to have the desire and you want to have that intention and passion to actually heal your shadow self and really purge those toxic habits. I'll say it again, purging toxic habits is what you're doing with this new moon on September 17th. Virgo is all about habits. Virgo is about the details. It's about organization. It's really about creating plans and being logical about things. And 8th house is about purging, and it also deals with toxicity as well. So Virgo energy wants to heal, it wants to plan, it wants to really create a plan to purge those toxic habits. So that's what I really feel like Aquarius will be doing with this new moon energy, and also like the latter half of September is really about doing that inner psychological work to really heal yourself, especially since you have your 12th house activated with Saturn sitting there right now, and then 8th house and 12th house are the spiritual houses. So your spiritual self is really activated in September, and I feel like you're really healing spiritual sides of yourself that maybe you avoided before. And so on September 23rd is the actual shift. So The shift of the nodes officially happens on September 23rd, 2020. You guys want to mark your calendars because this is like the biggest day of the year. It's really powerful. This is when the nodes go into Taurus and Scorpio. They've been in Gemini and Sagittarius for the past several months, 18 months to be exact. And I've alluded to this shift like on my channel before, but it's officially here in September on the 23rd. And the nodes are actually shifting into your 4th house and 10th house axis. So this is such powerful energy, and I will dedicate a whole separate video to talking about the shift, just so this video isn't bogged down with too much information. But just know that the shift is happening on the 23rd, and I'll be doing a separate video about it, and you guys don't want to miss it. So subscribe so you don't miss it, post notifications turned on. And then for the love predictions for September, I will be posting those on my Patreon. So if you want to know your love life for September, know the predictions for that, head to my Patreon, click the Astro Zaddy subscription to gain access to that information. And I will be posting also the dates of the events in September on my Instagram, and post this prediction I gave you right now in Instagram format on my Instagram at AstroKit. So you guys can head there for more information, and I'll see you Aquarius in my next video. Hey Cancer, so let's get into your prediction for the month of September and really talk about how the astrological events that are happening in September will influence you specifically and personally. So the way I usually do predictions is that I talk about the major events that are happening that month, and then we dwindle it down and talk about how they really impact you on a personal level. And so in September, I will say in just like a few short words, September is this month of change, this month of the game being changed really, and a lot of shifts and just this new electrifying energy. And we'll get into what that means for you in a minute. And on my Instagram, I have the full list of events happening in September. My Instagram is at AstroKit. However, in this video, we will talk about the 4 major events that really influence us on a regular basis and how they really manifest in our daily life. So we'll get into the main ones in this video. So with that being said, this is for Cancer rising or Cancer moon. I do my predictions based on rising signs, and you can feel called to watch your moon sign as well. So moon sign is relevant, rising sign is relevant. So you can watch this video for your moon sign timestamp, rising sign timestamp. And then this is using sidereal astrology. So sidereal dates, sidereal signs. So if you're watching this, you are a sidereal Cancer rising, sidereal Cancer moon. With that out of the way, let's get into this first event. This first event is very powerful, but before we get into it, I'm actually really curious to know, what is your current mood right now? So if you can describe your current mood, what you're feeling in emojis, comment down below. As I'm filming this, it's actually the Leo full moon today, or the Leo new moon today. So there's a lot of powerful energy going on in the cosmos right now. So I'm curious to know what you're feeling about it. So tell me down below in emojis. So let's just get into this first event. So this first event is the full moon. So this full moon is happening in the sign of Aquarius. And this full moon is so powerful just because it's also aspecting Uranus. So Aquarius energy is going to be activated in the beginning of the month, and Uranus energy is joining it. And so Uranus is the planet that is tied to Aquarius, and Aquarius energy, Uranus energy is all about unpredictability. It's about change. It's about freedom. Aquarius energy is about changing the game in some way, inventing new things, doing things in an innovative approach, creating new things, and really shaping the world in a very unique sort of way. And so we're all going to feel that as a collective in the beginning of September, because the full moon's happening on the 2nd, September 2nd, and then the full moon energy lasts for about 2 weeks after that. So the first half of September is really Aquarius themed. And for you specifically, Cancer, this full moon's happening in your 8th house. So Aquarius is already about change. Aquarius is already about innovation and shifting, and so is Uranus. And the 8th house is also about transformation. It's also about change on a different level, on a more like psychological level. So you're almost experiencing that like double influence of magnified change in your life. And so with this Aquarius full moon in your 8th house specifically, I feel like this will manifest for you, Cancers, as you really realizing healthier psychological patterns for yourself. And I feel like the way this full moon really manifests for you, Cancer, is that you're really realizing your own psychological patterns and breaking any toxic patterns this is so powerful for Cancer placements just because you're someone who can be very stuck in the past, stuck on your old mistakes, or be regretful or shameful about things. Cancer really ties to that past sort of energy, so you can really be stuck on things a lot of the times. But this full moon in Aquarius energy gives you that boost, gives you that courage to break the patterns, especially psychological patterns that no longer serve you. 8th house rules our shadow self, it rules our psychological mind. And when you have such powerful energy of change and transformation with Uranus and Aquarius and the full moon in that house, it's like you have that urge to change your patterns, change that belief about yourself, change that toxic memory, or kind of heal those toxic memories. Cancer does rule memories as well, so you guys can really be stuck on old memories a lot of the times, but Aquarius energy is like, let's snap out of it, sis. Like, let's get into it. Let's get into this change. Let's get into this innovation. Let's get into this future. Aquarius is the future, represents the future. So this is powerful for you because it's just transforming your mind completely. And once you transform your mind, then you can live a much healthier everyday life because your mind is healthy. And so also it brings to light this theme of intimacy, which is another karmic topic for Cancers. And really, you're asking yourself, how intimate are your friendships? How intimate are your relationships with people? Aquarius is that sign that represents friendships and social connections, and 8th house is intimacy. So maybe you're somebody who is going to be contemplating, like, okay, is this friendship intimate? Like, is it as close as it can be, or is it just shallow? Is it just superficial? Does it mean anything to me? Does it relate to my purpose at all? And you might be cutting some people out if they don't relate to that sense of purpose or that sense of passion within you. And 8th house is that theme, it represents that theme of purging as well. So you might be purging old friend groups, old beliefs, just purging whatever doesn't serve you, purging toxic patterns overall. And I feel like this really relates to the kind of people you partner with and share yourself with and are intimate with romantically too. And so that brings me into the next event, which is Mars going retrograde. So Mars goes retrograde on September 9th. And this is unique because Mars is not only going retrograde, but it's also going to be squaring Saturn for most of the month. And we talked about Mars going into Aries just in my last video in the August predictions. And Mars going into Aries represents that bold, initiatory, impulsive, excitable energy. However, with Mars being retrograde and then having Saturn being squared Mars, it's like it really restricts that action orientedness that Mars is very much about. And Mars is really about passion. It's about going, and not looking back, right? But Saturn kind of asks Mars in September to take a minute, be patient, look back, backtrack a bit, and that can feel quite frustrating. So you might feel this frustrating tension of Mars being kind of compromised in your 10th house. So Mars is going to be in your 10th house, so you might feel that tension in your 10th house when it comes to career, when it comes to your work projects, when it comes to your long-term goals. And I will say the whole vibe of this Mars squaring Saturn, being retrograde, is that theme of like second guessing yourself, second guessing before you move, second guessing before you do something, second guessing your actions. And so there's that theme of self-doubt a little bit with this energy, which is kind of challenging to deal with, and it's happening in your 10th house, so you might have some hesitation, some cautious, or proceed with caution when it comes to publishing new work goals or publishing new work projects, specifically starting new career endeavors. You might really feel like, okay, I want to do this, but you feel a little bit held back, or you might be second guessing yourself, you might be self-doubting a bit and really restricting yourself when it comes to those manifestations of your work projects. And 10th house is also long-term goals, so you might be second guessing a lot of your long-term goals, second guessing what you want to see manifest for yourself in the future. And the good thing is that this energy will only last pretty much in September, but the purpose of it, I feel like, is to really think before you leap into things. And even though it's a little bit challenging to deal with that tension of Mars being kind of blocked by Saturn, especially with your 10th house being in the equation of all of this. And so specifically for you, Cancer, I feel like it's good to have your long-term goal in mind and keep your strong focus on that vision, and don't let like this temporary blockage or temporary like failure of like Mars squaring Saturn and you feeling a little bit doubtful of yourself block you from manifesting in the future, because it's only a temporary transit that does kind of block you, but it will fade
by the end of September. That brings me to the next event, which is on September 17th, and it is the new moon in Virgo. So this new moon in Virgo is very powerful because Virgo energy represents healing, it represents plans, practicality, logic. And like I said, the first half of the month is really like Aquarius themed. The second half will be kind of like Virgo themed because the Virgo new moon sets a sort of energy layer for like the 2 weeks after the new moon literally happens. So the latter half of the month is like Virgo energy, the first half is Aquarius energy. And so this new moon in Virgo specifically on the 17th is happening in your 3rd house. And so definitely with this energy, I feel like this will manifest in Cancer's life as you initiating new hobbies, initiating new healthy hobbies. I feel like Cancer, I feel so strongly for you that in September you're on this mission of healing, this mission of being this best version of yourself. I don't think I touched on this earlier, but 8th house is also that house of healing, and 8th house is really that house of the phoenix, right? The burning down of the house and then the being revived later, being reborn later. So at the end of September, I feel like for Cancer you will be really feeling this reborn sense of energy, being revitalized and doing it yourself and healing yourself. This isn't just like somebody doing the work for you. This is you really putting your nose to the grindstone and healing those habits, healing those toxicity elements within yourself on a spiritual level and mental level especially. And I feel like Virgo energy, it's really about habit and really getting down to the nitty gritty and planning things out. And 3rd house is about communication. It's about logistics, it's about hobbies. And so I feel like you will be in this energy of like constructive communication, communicating with people in a constructive way. I feel like you will be writing a lot in the latter half of September with this new moon. I feel like you will be like writing like positive affirmations about yourself, writing in your journal, just kind of expressing yourself through writing is a huge thing for you in the latter half of September. And I feel like that writing and journaling and affirmations really contributes to your healing journey and this like beautiful phoenix bird you're going to be by the end of September. So that new moon in Virgo is very powerful for you. And September 23rd, mark the date, is the official shift. So I've been kind of alluding to this shift throughout the year on my channel, but the shift of the north and south node officially happens on September 23rd. And so this is like I feel like this is like the biggest event of the year. And for you specifically, Cancer, the north node's going to your 11th house, the south node's going to your 5th house, and the north and south node will be in Taurus and Scorpio for the next 18 months starting on the 23rd. And so since this is such a big event, I will dedicate a whole separate video to it just because it's a big event and I don't want to bog down this reading too long with that event. So with that being said, subscribe to my channel because you don't want to miss that video. And I will be doing the love predictions for September on my Patreon. So if you want to know your love prediction for September, head to my Patreon. I'll link it down below, and subscribe to the Astro Zaddy tier for that information. And then on my Instagram, I have the list of dates posted for September. And also I have this prediction in like Instagram format on my Instagram. So head to my Instagram at AstroKit for more information, and then also head to my Patreon for your love prediction for September, and I'll see you Cancers in my next video. Hey Scorpio, so let's get into your prediction for the month of September. So the month of September is this really powerful, game-changing sort of month. It has a lot of shifts, a lot of change within it, and we're going to talk about what that means for you in your life, Scorpio. And so with that being said, the way I usually do predictions is that I talk about the major events of the month and then boil them down and talk about how they manifest in your personal life. And so I have the list of events in September posted on my Instagram. There's quite a few events happening in September, but in this specific prediction, we'll talk about the 4 major events and how they really influence your life in a major way. So with that being said, this is for Scorpio risings. I do my predictions based on rising signs, and moon signs can be relevant as well. So Scorpio rising, Scorpio moon. And you can watch this video for your moon sign timestamp, rising sign timestamp too. And this is also using sidereal astrology. So sidereal placements, sidereal dates, sidereal signs, sidereal Scorpio rising, sidereal Scorpio moon. So with that out of the way, let's just get into these events. I'll talk about the first event, which is really powerful. And so before I get into that event, I'm actually really curious to know your current mood. So if you can describe what you feel right now using emojis, tell me down below
below. As I film this, the day that I film this, it is the Leo new moon, so there's a lot of powerful energy going on right now. But tell me how you personally feel down below. I'm curious to know using emojis. And with that being said, let's get into this first event. So the first event happening is the full moon in Aquarius. And this full moon is so special and so powerful and so game-changing because it is aspecting Uranus, and Uranus is that planet that is tied to Aquarius. And so we're having almost like that double influence of Aquarius energy. And we all know Aquarius energy is the energy that represents innovation. It represents doing things differently. It represents that action or expression of being unique. And Uranus is unpredictable. Uranus is like that energy that we can't expect. It's like that person or that archetype you really don't see coming. And so expect those themes of innovation and game-changingness to be really prevalent with this full moon. And specifically how that influences you, Scorpio, is that you're having this full moon in your 4th house. And 4th house is about foundations, family, living environment, house, vehicles, etc. And so I feel like with this full moon in your 4th house, it really touches on this aspect of friendship and those friends that you consider family. I feel like I heard this quote somewhere, I forgot how it exactly is said, but it's really about like when you get older, when you become an adult, you get to choose your family. And sometimes your friends become your family, or people that you live with become your family. You get to choose kind of like your own soul family as you get older, if you don't come from a really healthy family initially in your life. And so I feel like for Scorpio, you might resonate with that same sentiment. And I feel like with this full moon, you're really deciding like, okay, these people are my family. I don't necessarily have to just be like glued to these people that I was born around, but I can really choose the people I want to be around, choose these people that inspire me, that support me, that are really like your true ride or dies, and not necessarily like your biological ride or dies, but like people that are just really great friends to you. So there's really like that theme of friends and family for you with this full moon, and you kind of having that realization like, okay, this is my family that I choose. This isn't the family I was born in, but I choose this family because it's more healthy for my mental state. And we all know, Scorpio, you're all about your mental state and your mind and what you believe. And also for a lot of you guys, this can really manifest as a new living environment, or like unexpectedly moving somewhere. This can manifest as you at this moment being somewhere, living in an apartment, living in a house, wherever you are, but and not really having intentions to move. But on the 2nd and kind of like the weeks leading after that full moon, you might unexpectedly move somewhere new, unexpectedly have a new residence, unexpectedly, have this new soul family that I was talking about. There's that theme with unexpectedness with Uranus and Aquarius. And you also have this very emphasized awareness on your past versus your future. So you're really contemplating that energy of like, okay, this is my past. This is what I did in the past. These are the people that I grew up with. But what is my future exactly? Aquarius is that sign that represents the future, represents this futuristic theme in our lives. So you're thinking about that dynamic of past versus future, friends versus family, and maybe living environment might change for you as well. And I will say that full moon energy lasts 2 weeks after the full moon happens. So September 2nd is the full moon, and then up until the Virgo new moon, which we'll talk about in a second, you'll feel that Aquarius energy really strongly. So it's not just like one day, but it's like several days before and after the actual date of the full moon. And so that brings me to the next event, which is Mars going retrograde. So Mars goes retrograde on September 9th. And the unique thing about this is that not only will Mars be retrograde, it will be squaring Saturn as well. So this is kind of challenging energy for Mars. I talk about Mars going into Aries just a few days ago on August 16th. And I talk about that in my previous video, in the August predictions video. And Mars being in Aries is this very bold energy, this very initiatory energy, this impulsive energy. Mars is that energy that wants to go and go and go and achieve. It doesn't look back, right? But having it be retrograde and having it being squared Saturn, it kind of represents Mars feeling a little bit restricted and restrained. And so that's happening in your 6th house. And how this might manifest for you is feeling a little bit lethargic, feeling a little bit unproductive,
when it comes to Saturn squaring Mars, I really feel like it will manifest as a lot of us feeling self-doubtful, feeling a little bit like we are second-guessing ourselves. That's what kind of retrograde energy manifests as. That's what Saturn represents too. It's kind of second-guessing yourself, sort of like that energy of self-doubt. And what's the quote? Like, thinking before you leap. So when it comes to having this in your 6th house, you're going to feel that tension of like wanting to be productive, wanting to do things, wanting to do your usual routine. 6th house is routines, but feeling a little bit blocked, feeling a little bit delayed and restricted. And you're kind of like, wait, where's my vitality at? As we talk right now, you might be feeling a lot of vitality, a lot of energy, just because Mars is not retrograde yet. It's in your 6th house, so you feel very active and you want to do things and work out and be healthy. But then starting September 9th, you might feel a little bit blocked and a little bit stressed as well. 6th house Mars is very stressful energy, and Saturn squaring it is very stressful too. So you might be feeling a little bit stressed, I will say, throughout September, but mind you, this is kind of like a temporary transit. It's not like the whole year, it's just for a little bit. So you might feel that second guessing yourself sort of energy. You might also run into quite a bit of conflict. 6th house does deal with obstacles. 6th house does represent conflict as well. 6th house represents work too. So you might have some work conflict, obstacles in work. And 6th house, it's like I said, it's that theme of routine. It represents routine. So you want to push forward with a routine or plan, but then this Mars is retrograde and Mars squaring Saturn is kind of like, okay, wait, chill out, think your plan through, write your plan out, be patient. I think patience is the huge word with this Mars energy, especially in your 6th house. So expect to feel a little bit stressed. You might even have some health issues as well, so you have to be watchful of your health. 6th house is health, so you might be having like health issues based on stress, maybe some conflicts at work, and just obstacles overall and not having your routine flow as smoothly as you want in September. And so that's kind of like the downer part of the month, but that brings me into the new moon in Virgo. So on September 17th, the new moon in Virgo is happening in your 11th house. And so if you guys could get the picture now, it's like the month of September is like Aquarius themed in the first half of the month because we have that Aquarius full moon. And then the second half of the month is Virgo themed because the new moon Virgo energy lasts for like 2 weeks after it happens. So you can imagine like Virgo, Aquarius, or Aquarius, Virgo being like the themes of the month. And so starting September 17th specifically, you're going to have that new moon in Virgo in your 11th house. And 11th house is about long-term desires. It's about gains, opportunities, and really how we fulfill and go after our long-term desires. This isn't about like our superficial desires that we want on an everyday basis. This is like our life vision for ourselves, right? And Virgo is about plans. It's about logic. It's about habits and healing. So for you, Scorpio, I feel like this will manifest as you formulating a plan to fulfill your long-term desire. I feel like Virgo energy and this new moon in Virgo is so powerful because it gives us the urge and it gives us the willpower and energy and intention to want to create a plan to fulfill things. I feel like that's kind of like the boring part of manifesting your dreams. Sometimes it's like you have this grand vision for yourself, you have this wish or desire, but sometimes the plan is like the last thing you really want to create when it comes to manifesting that. But with this full moon or new moon in your 11th house specifically, you're going to have that urge to like write your plan out, write out your goals, write out your desires, and really get into that nitty gritty, like, how am I going to get there? How will I get from point A to point B? That's what Virgo energy is all about. It's about the nitty gritty details of things, which, like I said, can be kind of boring to get into or like tedious to get into, but this new moon gives us the inspiration to want to actually do the boring, tedious things of life. And specifically for you, you are kind of formulating that point A to point B plan of how you will manifest whatever long-term desire you do have. And that's really exciting for you, Scorpio. And then also 11th house represents community and friend groups too. So I can kind of sense this theme already of like friend groups being really relevant for Scorpios in September, and you might be becoming a part of a new health community. Maybe you kind of focus in. I see a lot of you guys kind of like focusing in on a specific kind of new value system you have, and then you choose a new friend group or choose a new soul family based on that
value that you do have, if that makes sense. So that can manifest as like, okay, now I value my health. So you join like a health club, or you join a Facebook group, or you join a manifestation circle, anything like that. You can join some sort of new health community, a new community with your friends, or create a community with your friends. I feel like there's this huge theme of community, friends, and kind of creating that community vibe and friendship vibe with people that actually align with you, not people you were just born with, but people that were like really align with you on a spiritual level. So you can really expect to feel that manifestation energy very strongly with this new moon starting on the 17th, and planning things out, planning your future, planning your goals, creating those opportunities for yourself, scripting your life out. The list goes on, and kind of joining those communities that support those goals and desires you do have. And then on September 23rd, you guys can mark your calendars. This is the shift. So the North and South Node officially shift on September 23rd, 2020. And so the North Node goes into your 7th house, and the South Node goes into your 1st house. So I would say the shift that's happening with the nodes is pretty much the biggest event of the year. So I will be doing a whole separate dedicated video to the shift, just because I don't want to bog down this reading with too much information, but just know it's a really big event. It's happening September 23rd. It's happening in your 7th 1st house axis. And stay tuned on my channel, because I will be doing a different video about it. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And then I will be doing the love predictions for your zodiac sign on my Patreon for the month of September. So if you want to see your September love predictions, head to my Patreon, subscribe to the Astro Zaddy tier. And then also on my Instagram, I have this prediction and all the dates for September and everything in like Instagram format. So my Instagram is at AstroKit, and I will see you Scorpios in my next video. Hey Pisces, so let's get into your prediction for the month of September. And so the month of September, if I could describe it in a few words, it's a very powerful month. It's a powerful month of change, of shifting. It's really like this game-changing sort of month, and we'll get into what that means specifically in your life in just a second. And so the way I usually do predictions is that I talk about the major events that are happening that month, and then really talk about how they manifest in your personal life. So on my Instagram, I have the full list of events listed out of the events happening in astrology in September. But in this video, we'll get into pretty much like the 4 major ones that really impact our lives on a daily basis. And so with that being said, I do my predictions also using rising signs or your moon sign. So you can be watching this if you're a Pisces rising or a Pisces moon as well, or you can watch this video too for your moon timestamp or your rising timestamp. So I also do these predictions with sidereal astrology and using the sidereal dates, sidereal signs. So sidereal Pisces is watching this, sidereal Pisces moon or rising is watching this. So with all that out of the way, let's just get into this prediction. And we'll get into the first event, which is really, really powerful. Before we get into that event, though, I'm really curious to know, what is your current feeling and mood right now? And if you can describe it in emojis, how would you describe it? So comment down below and tell me your current mood using emojis. As I'm filming this, this is the day of the Leo new moon. So I'm actually curious to know how you guys feel about this really powerful energy going on, how it's influencing you like at this moment. So tell me down below in the comments using emojis how you're feeling at this moment. So let's get into this first event. So this first event is the full moon. So it's happening on September 2nd, 2020. And this is the full moon happening in the sign of Aquarius. And not only is it in the sign of Aquarius, but it's in aspect to Uranus. So Uranus is that planet that is tied to Aquarius. So we're having almost like a double indication or double influence of Aquarius energy. And Aquarius energy represents innovation. It represents doing things differently. It represents this theme of uniqueness and really unpredictable change. That is the epitome of Uranus. The epitome of Aquarius is really changing the world in some way and changing our lives in some way. So how does this influence you specifically, Pisces? Is that this full moon's happening in your 12th house. So this really manifests for you, Pisces, as having this sort of 6th sense sort of clarity about your life, this kind of third eye clarity about your life, this really psychic clarity about your life. 12th house is the natural house of Pisces. It's the house of spirituality. 12th house represents everything we can't see. It represents all the
subconscious or intangible like vibes around us, the spirits around us, the just energies around us that we can't see, the frequencies, right? And so having this energy of Aquarius, this game-changing energy of Aquarius in your 12th house represents you really becoming privy to a lot of intangible things or intangible knowledge and spiritual knowledge you might not have seen before. 12th house represents things that are hidden. It represents secrets as well. So for some of you guys, I feel like this will manifest as you discovering secrets, but it's not necessarily like the like sinister kind of connotation that secrets usually have to it, but I feel like it's like the secret of what your inner self wants, the secret of like what your inner desire is, if that makes sense. Really like tapping into what your spiritual self is really like, tapping into that hidden part of yourself you're not really privy to, tapping into your subconscious thoughts you never even really thought about, and really having that psychic clarity, that psychic awareness about yourself, about your life. And you're going to be like in this Zen moment of like, wow, I see everything exactly how it is. It's almost like when you, well, I don't want to say that, but like, it's almost like just seeing things very clearly, but like in a metaphorical, metaphysical, spiritual way. And so expect to feel a lot of spiritual revelations. I wrote that down for you. Epiphanies, definitely. And just really feeling very close to God and feeling close to source. 12th house represents God. It represents source. It represents surrendering. So you might really feel that theme of surrendering to the divine plan and really surrendering to the spiritual urge you have within you, and not really doing anything too active, but just like surrendering fully is like this theme of the full moon for you, and not trying to control any outcome, but just surrendering to the bliss of the moment, if that makes sense. And really, this full moon illuminates your subconscious thoughts as well. So this full moon is really powerful for you, Pisces. And that brings me into the next event, which is on September 9th, and it is Mars going retrograde. So Mars just went into Aries on August 16th, and we talked about Mars being in Aries in your second house, specifically in my August predictions video. And Mars energy, it is at this moment, it's very impulsive, it's bold, it wants to accomplish things. Mars is that energy that wants to achieve and not look back. It's not a very much like dwelling sort of energy. It's a very impulsive energy, right? And having it retrograde kind of causes you to take a step back a bit. It causes you to think before you leap a bit. It's kind of challenging energy for Mars because Mars wants to go, go, go. And then retrograde kind of makes you reflect a little bit more before you go anywhere. And the other unique thing is that it's squaring Saturn as well. So Saturn, again, it's this indicator of delays and restriction and holding things back and restricting things back. And Mars is going to be really challenged in September. So the way you would feel that in your own chart, your own life, is that it's happening in your second house of finances, of values. So you might be feeling a little bit restricted when it comes to your finances, or kind of like wanting to move forward with some sort of plan and take action on some sort of plan, which is that Mars energy of action, right? But Saturn is like, wait, hold up. You need to be logical. You need to think things through. You need to see the future before you can do anything with money. And so you might feel a lot of restriction from Saturn and just like this tension of finances in September for you. So you really have to, I feel like the message with this transit is really saving your income, or not spending too much money, not being too impulsive with money, and just kind of reflecting on your finances and kind of reviewing your finances, and before you do too much and do something you might regret with your money later on. And the good thing is, though, that this transit is temporary. It's more like reflective than anything, I feel like. So it's not going to last for more than like the month of September, but it just really reflects that restriction sort of energy in the month of September. And you also might, I will say, with this Mars energy, it manifests as you maybe struggling to gain what you want, struggling to manifest that material thing. Second house really shows us the material things in our life, the material things we own specifically. So you might have a little bit trouble with that sense of material gain. But like I said, this transit really shows you how to be patient, create plans and be logical about money instead of being impulsive about money. And so that brings me into the, speaking about logic, that brings me into the next event, which is September 17th. So on September 17th, we're having the new moon in Virgo, and this new moon is happening in your 7th house. And 7th house is about partnership. It's about marriage. It's not just about romantic partnership, but also best friends. It's about business partnerships, etc. And so with this new moon, it's really about healing. It's about planning. It's about logic, which is the epitome of the Virgo archetype. It's about habits as well. And it's really about boundaries for you, Pisces. I feel like boundaries is a huge theme in the Pisces karmic lesson of life, especially if you're a Pisces rising. And 7th house really shows us how we set those boundaries with people. And with you being a Pisces, you can struggle with boundaries at times and struggle with boundaries in your life. That's part of your karma as a Pisces. And with this new moon, though, new moon energy is more initiatory. It's more upbeat. It's more optimistic. And so you might begin a new relationship. I see for some Pisces, you guys definitely beginning something new in a partnership. And like I said, it doesn't have to be like romantic. It can be platonic. It can be a business partnership. In fact, I see actually a lot of you guys having like a business deal or like maybe signing some sort of contract that's really important for you in September. If you are kind of starting a new business, if you're somebody who's like that does collaborations with people, I sense like that theme of like collaboration and brand deals and business and contracts for a lot of Pisces in the latter half of September. But if it doesn't manifest that way, it might manifest in a romantic sense or just like a casual sense where you are setting those boundaries in partnerships. Maybe you start a new partnership or there's a new beginning in a relationship you already have. But either way, you're kind of setting that really strong intention to set boundaries in your relationships and like structure out how you want your boundaries to look like, how you want your standards to look like. Virgo energy is really about discernment, and that is your sister sign. So you really feel that energy of like, okay, this is what I want my partnerships to look like. This is the kind of person I want to attract. This is the kind of boundaries I have for myself. These are my standards, and I'm not budging on them. This is the kind of energy you will be influenced with this new moon on September 17th. And really choosing your partners logically. That's another karmic lesson I feel for Pisces, is that you can have trouble choosing partners in a logical way, but this new moon in Virgo kind of gives you that energy of like literally probably like writing down what you want in a partner, or writing down what you want your partnerships to look like, scripting out what is the boundaries, what are the standards, really like literally writing it down, because Virgo energy is ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules writing. And so the theme of boundary setting is really prevalent for you, especially in the last 2 weeks of September. And so when it comes to this month of September, if you can get a good picture of it now, it's like the beginning of the month is very Aquarius themed, because the Aquarius full moon the energy from a full moon lasts for about 2 weeks after the full moon happens, which is on the 2nd, and then on the 17th is the new moon in Virgo. So we're having like the first chunk of September very Aquarius themed, very Uranus themed, and then the second half is very Virgo themed. So it's like that expression, freedom, innovation, change, and then Virgo comes to kind of clean up everything and create a succinct plan out of the chaos we create in the beginning of the month. And that succinct plan for you and structure is coming through your 7th house of partnerships, relationships, business deals, contracts, boundaries, etc. So that's really exciting for you, Pisces, since this is your sister sign. That's really being activated in the second half of September. And so on September 23rd is the official shift. So I've been kind of alluding to the shift of the nodes throughout my videos in the past months, but the nodes, the North Node and South Node, actually shift on September 23rd. So you guys want to take that date down. It's a really important day, if not the biggest day of the year. It's really exciting. And the nodes are shifting into your 3rd house, 9th house axis. And so I'll be doing a whole separate video about the nodes and the nodal shift, just because it's its own topic. It's a huge event. I don't want to bog down this reading too much with that event. So stay tuned for my shift video on my channel. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll post the love predictions for September on my Patreon. So if you want to know your love life for September, especially since your 7th house is activated, I'll be posting that on my Patreon. So I'll link it down below. You guys can click the Astrology subscription to gain access to that information. And then on my Instagram, I have the dates of the events for September posted. And then also I have the prediction I just gave you in Instagram format on my Instagram. So my Instagram is at AstroKit. My Patreon's linked down below. And I'll see you, Pisces, in my next video.